Hello, hello. Good evening. Where's my game? Oh, wow. Game sound. Thank you for the pet. How you doing? Hope you're good. Come. It's already Wednesday. Every time I sit down for the Wednesday stream, because, Wednesday is our first day during the week that I stream usually. It's always like, oh my god, it's already Wednesday. It's already like half the week is over. Ha! How did that work? It's always very fascinating. I'm not gonna lie. It's always very fascinating to see how, because sometimes a week will feel extremely long, and then some other times it's like, oh my god, what do you mean? It's already this and that time. Where did we go? What did we do? Blah blah blah. That's what it feels like today as well. It's like, what? It's already Wednesday? Damn. But I'm happy. I'm happy I get to continue this game. It's only Wednesday. I see. For me this week it's like, it's already Wednesday. For you it's like, it's only Wednesday. Well, I hope it's over for you soonish then. I once again tried to order stuff to the apartment, right? Which I usually don't do because I don't trust them to find the mailbox, and I was right, because apparently today, once again, they were like unable to find my fucking mailbox to like put the delivery in there, but they sure can put a piece of paper in that says, hey, you can get this thing on the other side of the city tomorrow. And I'm like, great, lovely. I am a little scared that my pre-order copy of Splatoon 3 will be the exact same. And Splatoon 3 is coming out on a Friday. So if they attempt to deliver it and they, for whatever reason, cannot fit one singular Switch game into my mailbox, then I'm gonna be stuck without the game until I can hopefully then get it on Saturday, and I do not want that to happen. I am praying that won't happen, not gonna lie. I need that game. I need it so badly. it's so bad. I really hope the Splatfest on Saturday will like quench my thirst for, until the full game releases. I need it. I need it, right? But yeah. In that sense, I'm looking forward to the rest of the week, because it's only 2 more days, so they should be over feasibly fast, and then it's the weekend, and then I can spend the entire day being a hermit and not going out and literally only playing Yakuza and then Splatoon, so that's gonna be fun. But for now it is time to set foot into our funky bookstore where nothing weird ever happens. Nothing weird has ever happened here, and nothing weird will ever happen again. It's a totally normal bookstore with totally normal books and totally normal people. Obviously very normal people. So let's jump right in. We cleared chapter 1 last time. We fought some weird silkworm that threatened to consume us all. Or more likely, it threatened to consume 2 specific people, but it's probably still like out there trying to get those other people who also took those funny flower drug thingies. So maybe by the end of the game we'll come back to the silkworm, or maybe they will completely forget about it and be like, oh, you know what, it already happened once in your lifetime, you're not gonna see it again. I'm not quite sure which direction this game is planning to take, so let's find out. A faint light, a little light can be seen, but not much. It's a precious thing, and there aren't many of those. Every few heartbeats, light tears through the darkness in front of its eyes. Then it remembers the good things, and the bad ones disappear into oblivion. It imagines itself eating, drinking, stretching its arms. After doing all that, the deepness surrounds it again. It gradually learns to be tired, but it also learns to crave a little excitement. But not yet. Neither this deep self nor the outer world is prepared for that encounter. A voice is calling it from the other side. It's in the deepest depths, but the light is everywhere and it belongs there. It isn't time. It isn't time yet. It's only time. Its new wings have not yet grown and its new self is not mature enough, so it waits. It decides to take care of the immediate problem first. Imagining itself eating, drinking, or stretching its arms, it has finally left its existence behind. For love and family, okay. Sure. This is hard. My joints crack loudly. They say pain is the first sign of the body recovering from fatigue. I have my doubts about the person who made that claim. It's Monday morning and the sun is nowhere to be seen. To be honest, this mildly warm day is quite dull. After 2 days of light rain over the weekend, the temperature hasn't dropped at all. The air feels quite stuffy. The weather's downright depressing and I'm in a bad mood since I can't seem to find a place to relax. I'm getting old! I can't do this anymore! You're 31! Looking around the ground floor at Hermitage, everything looks the same as always, when in fact the whole ceiling on the upper floor was torn apart just last week. Even I'm surprised that the damage wasn't more extensive. Since it took a lot of effort to clean up the plaster and redecorate the walls, it is unfortunate that we didn't ask for a higher fee to expel the scaly silkworm. Cecile has been asking questions over the phone all weekend. She feels incredibly guilty and doesn't seem to realize that she herself deserves the most rest. Luckily, she didn't come over today. It would have been really awkward otherwise. While Scarlett and I were coaxing Cecile into staying at home, Eloise visited Hermitage once again. She seemed like a decent person, even after being a victim of this whole affair. She brought the rest of the lilac grass to the bookstore and asked me to keep it hidden away. She was forgiven pretty quickly. She must have thought a lot about that, but that's not all she wanted, and unfortunately, none of her other wishes came true over the weekend. Which makes it clear that the trouble is far from over. This feeling is only getting worse. I get a stomach ache at the thought of having to ask Scarlett for help to wrap things up. Scarlett already has a week's worth of trouble on her hands without even taking into account the problems that the weekend caused. There's no doubt in my mind that she's planning on coming after me for the letter to collect my dad. Really? You must have been missing me a lot then. Speak of the devil. Scarlett's tall and elegant figure appears at the entrance of the shop. She pushes up her sunglasses and flips the door sign to closed. Finally, you're here. My premonition might not actually come true, I suppose. So I buried the thought in the back of my mind. Why did you think she would die over the weekend or something? By the way, we don't have any new books yet, right? No. Okay. Finally, a rare chance to sit down. Dolores is as breezy as ever as she tosses her briefcase onto the desk and casually unbuttons her collar in an attempt to breathe more freely. Good to see you here again. How was your weekend? Pretty bad, actually. After all, I don't get paid for working overtime. I feel that. Any progress on the road collapse case? Yeah, but frankly, it doesn't do us any good. Due to the high cost of maintaining a blockade, the decision has been made to focus on reopening the roads. This means that they will have to start cleaning up the damaged areas and replacing the entire road, even if it affects the follow-up investigation. Sooner than I thought. A rash decision like this will affect the credibility no matter what. Do they really think this is a better solution than waiting a little longer? The opponent of public transport is probably involved. Who knows for sure? But it lightens the load for you, right? As if I'd fight to the death without paycheck. The lawyer shrugs dismissively. With this sudden shift in priorities, resources will be diverted elsewhere, which means it will be hard for me to get involved in the investigation. Keep in mind that I'm just a lawyer, not a certified detective. What's more, analyzing the cause of the road damage requires field research. You've seen the surveillance footage, but apart from that, our findings aren't of much help in this investigation. But I need more information. I want to know how the road was damaged, whether it melted or if it was blasted open. I don't believe a flash of light could have caused such a neat hole in the ground. Something just doesn't seem right. The unusual destruction speaks for itself. Unfortunately, the city seems to be flooded by the unusual these days. Sounds like you've at least seen a sinkhole with your own eyes. Yeah, but my intuition tells me something bad. Something I don't want to come true. Scarlett sounds tired and rubs her eyes. The road looks as if someone used a sci-fi laser on it, but then there can't have been an explosion. Yo! Good evening, how are you? Describing it so vividly is just making me even more confused. There's no point in talking about it. In a few hours they'll be taking a sledgehammer to the place. When the repair work is complete, more than 20 tons of new concrete and steel bars will bury our clues, and an extra layer of asphalt will be added on top. Your list of complaints could fill a whole book. How about you? Did you find the person who sold lilac grass to the students at Phoenix High School? No. Eloise came here on Saturday and described several faces that she saw, but what can I do about it? Even if she painted portrait sketches of each person, it wouldn't be of much use. Hi, Weird! Good evening! Hope you're good. I can see that you still want to track down the lead. Scarlett seemed to have no intention of listening to my grumbling, so she taps on a table, signaling for me to go on. I'm good. I did a good thing today. I did a very intelligent thing today, which is I got some food on the way home, so I could eat it comfortably before stream start, and I don't have to make like rustling noises. And especially when I'm playing a visual novel where I have to do all the talking, I don't get interrupted by, you know, having to eat. So that's nice. I did. Yeah. Tasty rice and sweet and sour sauce and everything. Very good. Very good. I'm trying. You know, it's funny, right? I am a vegetarian, or a pescatarian, if you will. I do eat very small amounts of fish, but literally only salmon, and even that only as like a smoked salmon and nothing else. But I actually do dislike most vegetables cooked. Like, I do like them raw. Like, that's perfectly fine. Raw well, which is the correct word in English again? If I say paprika, it's probably the wrong thing. But like, I like a cucumber just the way it comes. Like, that's perfectly fine. Same with the pepper, or whichever the correct word is. I don't like them cooked though, but I'm trying to get more used to it. So I'm trying to eat more like cooked vegetables. It's a slow process, not gonna lie. But I'm trying, so that's a plus. And I've been holding off on getting a bubble tea for the entire week, because every other day it's like another thing that stops me from actually going to the next place and get one. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It's probably good, because that way it's not as much sugar. But I'm craving a bubble tea very, very badly. So trying is the first step to success. That is very true. That is very true. Scarlett seemed to have no intention of listening to my grumbling, so she taps on a table, signaling for me to go on. If you let the lilac grass circulate in society, sooner or later those supernatural things will target this city. Today's been hard enough without sowing some more seeds of misfortune. It would be foolish to believe that just because of one successful escape, it's suddenly all over. I really envy you for being so motivated all the time. Is this an Atlas game? Not at all. No, not at all. I think the developer is called Arrowviz, and funnily enough, on Steam itself, they have like two. They have 2 games out right now, and one that is coming soon. Apparently, they have this one, but this one and I don't know, the original Chinese version of it, I'm guessing, which for some reason costs like not even half the price as the English version, so that's interesting. And a VR only game, which seems to be some kind of rhythm game. And then they have another one that's coming out. Well, it says coming soon. It looks interesting. I have no idea what it's about though. It's another visual novel, but it's tagged as visual novel and JRPG and 3D, so I'm not quite sure. I can sadly not tell you who the artist behind this one is, but I really do like the art style as well. It's actually one of the main reasons I looked into it when I first saw the game. Though, to be fair, they seem to have... Well, they seem to have a main artist for the portraits and everything, I'm guessing. And then for the CGs, I think it's a different artist, because the CGs have a very different style on how they draw the faces and everything. So I am guessing they have at least 2 different people working on this. And then the group that translated the game is a German company, actually. They have some other visual novels out as well. I think they also have their own original visual novels out. So I'm trying to like look into all of their stuff, because like this game is super interesting. It has its flaws with the translation, and that's definitely like literally only the translation where these flaws come in that make the text a little unreliable sometimes, where it's like, I do not understand what you're saying, but I'm just trying to piece together some context. But it's alright. I've seen, honestly, I've read completely machine translated patches of stuff before, and I could still piece together what the meaning is. So at least this one was translated by actual people. So if there's a few phrases that are awkward, well, maybe it's just that they're missing experience or something. I don't want to speak badly about it, because like I'm glad that they translated it in the first place. Otherwise I would not even be able to play it right now. I do not speak any kind of Chinese. So It's just that you've been cooped up too long and have used up all of your energy. At the end of the day, though, this task should have been left to professionals, not to lawyers or researchers who are only good at smoking and letting other people do the dirty work. Hey, I helped with the investigation. So you're saying we can't even have a smoke together? You're not making me any happier with that statement. Is there no progress in the investigation? You probably won't like my answer. Is there not enough evidence to attract the attention of the high-ups? We really need something more concrete to prove it. If you made the whole situation regarding the lilac grass public, only an absolute fool would ignore it. You can't walk around with that kind of information and not do anything about it. Then why? The bait I put out there was necessary. They're already working on the case. Are you saying that someone started investigating drug trafficking at the school before we did? Not exactly. However, since they don't seem interested in our information, it's likely that they have similar information already. However, with my current contacts, I can't find out which team is actually handling the matter. Everyone I know regarding that issue is being watched very closely. It doesn't seem like a regular hierarchy either, so it's hard to get any information from the outside. Sorry, I'm not of much help to you. No, I'm the one who's been putting all the pressure on you. There's no use in lying to yourself. You're not going to sleep peacefully until you get this sorted out, are you? I wonder if you ever get a good night's sleep in general. Has anyone ever told you that sometimes it's just better to keep your mouth shut? Scarlett's in a really bad mood today, too anxious even to crack a joke. I quickly decide to change the subject and stop irritating her with the fact that this case is getting more and more complicated. But professionals, jeez, even if we could get a private detective to help us out. It's not like you to involve other people, and what kind of professional spends a day investigating other people's affairs? Sounds like you're holding a personal grudge. Wait, but wouldn't a private detective actually, wouldn't that be their main job? If you're a private detective, that's literally your job, investigating other people's business. It has nothing to do with a personal grudge, just think about it. Did you think it would cause an even bitter? What? An even bitter headache? What's that supposed to be? If the person in charge has a hard time finding so much as a shred of evidence and finds out all kinds of embarrassing stuff by sneaking around and lockpicking instead? Wow, you make it sound as if we're in Victorian London. This is the digital age. Ugh, I forgot to ask, how is Cecile and the others? The hole in her hand hasn't changed, but it seems to itch a bit when it comes in contact with water. It's a good thing that it's autumn, so wearing long sleeves helps to cover it up. A bicycle accident is the excuse she's going with. It looks pretty extreme, so maybe the other students will be more careful on their bikes from now on. It's not a solution for the problem. Is there really nothing we can do? I mean, it's fascinating to think about it, right? She just straight up has a hole in the middle of her hand, but all of her hand functions normally still. For now, the best solution is to protect her and let her rest. The wound can't heal normally, but the ward will gradually forget about it, and that should make it return to its usual form. It's not organic damage at all. The only advice I can give is that it should be covered with something like a bandage for mental health reasons more than anything. Mental health reasons being if you keep looking at your hand and you see right through it because there's a hole in it, I'm guessing you're taking mental damage. It must be tough having to deal with all of this at such a young age. I'm sure she's strong enough to deal with this. The hand injury is probably nothing compared to the ache in her heart. Look at this kid, calmly getting her hair done. She was in contact with a scaly silkworm and basically just ruined one set of clothes. The fact that her face and limbs are still intact is pure luck. I can only hope that they get along with the club again. Speaking of which, what exactly did Eloise want? Like I already said, a group of people supplied her with lilac grass, and as soon as Eloise tried getting back in contact with them, they disappeared. If you left a chalk mark in the alley by the school, they would meet you the following evening. Since it's a rather passive way of contacting someone, there's nothing we can do if they don't respond. Even though she's quite mature, Eloise is still just an ordinary high school student who's a bit too smart for her own good. I shouldn't put too much pressure on her. Do we know anything else about the meeting place? I wish I could give you an answer to that, but... well, forget about it. It seems to be a normal alley. The residential areas near Phoenix High School have pretty much the same alleys ever since they were built several years ago. According to Eloise, there are no windows on either side of the alley and just one locked back door from one of the shops. It's very dirty, so nobody would go back there voluntarily. Last weekend, Cecile went back there too and surreptitiously left a few markings or something. But in the end, there wasn't a single person there. All she saw was a little cat running around making a mess. But what does she want? She almost got killed by that scaly silkworm, so why would she go looking for trouble again? It's just some childish notion of wanting to end it or something. I've already spoken to her a great deal, so save your breath. Scarlett's lips are pressed tightly together, maybe because she knows I'm right. She grumpily rubs two fingers against her forehead. I highly doubt we find anyone by means of those markings. Maybe we shouldn't hope for that to happen in the first place. You shouldn't really leave behind anything if you're sneaking around. Eloise described them as rather commonly dressed. They weren't wearing any fancy clothing or accessories, but the way they spoke to each other sounded really frightening. As they say, evil comes in many forms. If they don't look as evil as the things they do, that just means they're hiding it really well. So congratulations on the haha first! Do you really think a group selling dangerous drugs to immature students would keep such a low profile? I thought the same thing. In the beginning, I assumed they were just a couple of young dealers trying to make some money, but once Eloise said that they're mostly middle-aged and seem very calm and collected, something felt off. When was the last time Eloise saw them? Must have been at least a week or two ago when Cecile first started using lilac grass. As soon as her stocks were exhausted, she went to get more. You know what happened after that. If you want more information, you can just ask her yourself instead of coming to me. Wait, a week ago? Is that why you're so concerned about it? Change is a signal in itself. First, there's 3 tomatoes destroyed, and soon after that, a group of outlaws suddenly abandons their operations and disappears. Under normal circumstances, these two things might not be related, but none of this can be considered normal anymore. The smaller the circle, the more likely the connection. It does make sense, but the lawyer doesn't look convinced. I mean, there are thousands of people who share a birthday, for example, but would anyone call that a connection? Actually, I am always... Have I met anyone with the same birthday as me? Not... I've always met people who are like maybe 2 or 3 days off, but I don't think I've ever actually met someone who has the same birthday as mine. And it's like, I always think it's very cool to meet someone who has the same birthday. I think that is worth a connection, but like worth it to call a connection because it's like, haha, hey, it's the same date. But just so you know, I'm saying this for your own good. Your logic isn't logical yet. Well, if there were anything logical to rely on, I'd happily do so, but since there isn't, let me do some more digging. The main reason I came here today is because I wanted you to keep looking for clues. I've just lost a big lead and I don't want another one to go to waste. The road may be fixed and any clues destroyed, but there has to be something else we can think of. Who knows? I'll just keep looking for some more excuses to file another investigation or collect some more surveillance tapes. I know it doesn't seem like the best approach, but times have changed. I'll give you Louise's phone number so you can get in contact with her. Don't push too hard, and if anything comes up, let me know and we can discuss it together. That seems to make her feel a little better. Scarlett chucks a notebook and pencil at me. I'm afraid all of this won't be enough. I need to write down a couple of things and mull everything over. You can be just as reckless as those two high school kids sometimes. There's no obstacle that can't be overcome, but you have to find the right opportunity to do so. I don't need you to tell me that. Never mind, I'll take care of it. You know quite a few people with your birthday were never the same birthday. Ah! True. I literally can't think of anyone who has the same birthday as me, and definitely not the same birthday and birth year. A friend who's actually born on the same day, month, and year as me. What? Maybe your friend is collecting people who are born on that specific date only. It's like, hey, I know this other guy here. You both have the same birthday. That's fascinating, though. I know someone who's born on the 13th of August, on the 12th of August, on the 10th of August. Yeah. Definitely. But I do not know anyone on the 11th. That's... Also, like, even in, like, media, in I don't know, in anime, in games, whatever, I've also not... The only person I can reasonably think of, there's two different characters. There's one character in Arknight who apparently shares a birthday with me, but I don't know which one anymore. I never got that much into Arknight, and I'm not playing it anymore because it's a gacha game. And one character in Project Sekai. What's her name? Ichinose? One of the leader girls. I never really got into Project Sekai or its lore, but there's apparently a girl in there who has the same birthday as mine. One of your friends is on the 11th of August? Haha! Me too. I'm also 11th of August. Since we don't have anything more to discuss here, I'll head back now and look for some other possibilities to delay the roadworks. I'll keep in touch. Good morning! Good morning! It is 7 p.m. But good morning to you. Sure, you're always welcome. After grabbing a briefcase, Scarlett walks towards the door and leaves swiftly. I look at my desk, moving the ashtray aside to grab a map of the local area beneath it. I draw a circle around Phoenix High School and another one around the Outer Banks. Even on paper, those two are pretty far apart. 10 centimeters could be hiding many connections, or maybe nothing at all. Only one friend even shares the same month as you. Oh. No, I know a few people in August, that's for sure. It's not exactly morning. It's morning somewhere in the world. We'll go with that. It's morning somewhere in the world. The ending of this tumultuous week just adds to the mystery, which does little to keep up morale. Nonetheless, we've helped 2 people. I light a cigarette, trying to chase away the anxiety that lingers in my heart. I hope you had a good morning. Yeah, I got up on time. And managed to catch my bus, so that was nice. Because yesterday I dreamt I was oversleeping and then overslept and missed my bus. And the next bus was late, and then I was late to work, so that was a great beginning of the day. And then I fucked up stuff at work as well, and it got like a stern talking to where everyone else is like, okay, we had to talk now, we're done with it, and I'm the type of person I will think of this forever now, which is not fun. The only times was the one which I live in. It takes takes a while, but at long last, rain comes pouring down. The streets are full of people, the city's busy. Footsteps echo as water splashes from the puddles that are quickly forming on the concrete. The usual sounds of people surprised by sudden downpour, rushing to find a dry spot. Although Hermitage is situated in an old building, it has a pretty good drainage system. The rain is streaming down the gutter extension on the upper floor, two small waterfalls forming on each side of the store. A certain amount of rainfall provides a nice soundscape for work. It improves one's focus and is calming somehow. But this isn't that kind of rain. It's just annoying. Frustrated, I put down my pen and notebook. You didn't let your dreams be dreams! Oh my god. Yeah. I don't usually dream, but I can still vividly recall most of that dream. It was so weird. You know how they say, dreams have meanings? The dream in question was me dreaming about oversleeping, then getting up. Because I overslept, I missed my bus. So I went to my car and I thought to myself, okay, I'll use the car to drive to work, which I don't like doing, but it's an option, so I did that. Still in the dream, right? Then I don't drive to work. Thank you for the sub! Hope you enjoy the emotes. Then I don't drive to work. No, I drive to a school that I apparently go to. But the school has like a 5-layer parking system with like different areas on where you need to go. I repeatedly get lost in it. So I keep driving around this weird parking space, right? I'm like, okay, finally I parked my car, but it's like I don't park it in a normal spot. No, I drive like halfway up a hill, kind of. That's where I park it. Then I get out of the car and walk towards the building. I'm like, oh damn, where do I need to go? And then some nice person shows me the way and it's like, oh, this is where you need to go. I'm like, oh, thank you. And I go to the building and into the school and into a classroom. And I'm like, oh, you're late. Why are you late? I'm like, oh, sorry. And then some other person is like, hey, glad you could make it. Glad you found it. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy out there helped me. And then the person in my dream is like, what? You can see him? And then I woke up. And then I woke up and realized, oh fuck, I'm late. You dreamt that your building stood up and revealed its legs? What? Oh god, okay. It's clearly a sign, yes, clearly it's a sign that I should ignore. A cliffhanger. No, I think I was so weirded out by my dream that it just woke me up. When the stream shut down. It's so weird. Because the worst part is I went to bed at 9 the evening before. And I was so tired. Like on Monday, I was so tired. I went to bed at 9 and I fell asleep at 9. Which then in turn meant I woke up at 3. And I had a weird dream during that time as well, but I can't recall it anymore. And then I fell back asleep at around 5. And that's when the school dream happened. And I'm still like, what? I think it means you should work from home. I would love it if I had a job where I could work from home, not gonna lie. I would do that in a heartbeat. But I don't. I don't have a job where I can work from home. Sadly. Alrighty. Let's focus on this chapter 2 though. We have a chapter 2 here. We don't have a chapter 2 for the dream yet, but we have a chapter 2 here. Many thoughts and theories fill up my notebook, but they haven't brought any results. Even with Scarlett's promise to continue to help with the investigation, things aren't going too well. There really aren't many people who are qualified to help with this. It's a very complicated situation, and Scarlett's leads are just about the only thing we have left. If she loses them or if her sources prove unreliable, that's it. Scarlett said if we don't find something concrete to follow up on, the whole case will be put on hold. If her contacts and sources are no longer a viable option, the case will turn cold quickly, and without any official support, it would be next to impossible for her to keep digging. Maybe it's time to tackle this from a different angle. I close my notebook and try to direct my focus elsewhere. Hey, hi. You seem to be, maybe, the main character of this chapter. A child suddenly appears in the doorway and throws me an informal and unfriendly greeting. He just said, hey! Nico, what are you doing here? I'm sorry. She has no umbrella and the rain dripping from her sweater is starting to form a big puddle right there in the doorway. She hasn't changed one bit. Still as short as ever, with white darting eyes, messy hair and an aura of grumpiness around her that makes it seem like she's angry at the whole world. Other kids her age would be preparing for school exams right about now, but she's not exactly like other kids. Never has been. Well, I kinda need a place to crash, shelter. Just as she says that, I notice the big waterproof backpack she's brought with her. It's way bigger than herself. She must have dragged it all the way here. The backpack is bursting at the seams and I can make out all kinds of sharp edges, so whatever's inside can't be closed. It's probably a computer. Why are you carrying so much stuff around? What's going on? It's just everything that I need. She said you'd have a spare room for me. Things are already clear and I instantly know who Nico is talking about, but I don't! Scarlett hasn't forgotten about last week's events, and just like me, she's not the kind of person to put things to rest if she's not satisfied with the results. Oh, okay. So you've been in touch with Scarlett? I have an empty room, but it's just a storage room that consists of, well, just walls really. I only just started cleaning up the mess in there yesterday. That's fine, no problem, I'll take it. Hey, now, I haven't agreed to anything yet. You got electricity? Electricity isn't an issue, but the pipes aren't connected to the second floor. It's just a storage space after all. And you live on the first floor, right? Don't worry about all the other jazz. I can set everything up by myself. That being said, I'm afraid my budget is already tight, so I can't really cover your living expenses. No problemo. I'm anonymously developing games for some online friends of mine. I should make enough to support you a little on the side. Aha! There's definitely a computer in that backpack. Maybe even two. This sounds like more than just a short stay. Mind telling me what's going on? Come on, you know why I'm holed up here. If you're just here to mess around, then that's not worth putting this place at risk for. Nico stares at the ground for a long while before finally speaking. The guy's there, so I can't stay any longer. Who? The guy can only mean one person. Her guardian, who she doesn't seem to be getting along well with. A year ago, the process of finding a place for Nico to stay was an arduous task. Because she'd already been living on the streets for so long, finding a guardian through official channels had proven nearly impossible. But leaving her out there to fend for herself simply wasn't an option. The man clearly had other plans when he offered to take her in, not seeing the actual human being in need, but free labor instead. At first, Nico even convinced herself that a give-and-take relationship was better than receiving anything for free. A man like that isn't the right kind of person to take care of you. It's not your fault, really. He's usually quite nice to me. I'm treated alright, I get food and clothes. I do some work around the place, like updating the firewalls. But hacking the orphanage and stealing their money? Can't bring myself to do it. She kicks the ground. I didn't think they'd go so far. The orphanage is a government-run institution. That's what makes it even easier. True. It's been almost a year now. The people there don't care at all about us kids. They're just in it for themselves. And I want to be forced to help them with their schemes. Taking away the funds would mean all the kids there would go hungry. That's just unacceptable. Nico mutters something to herself. Even though she chose to walk away from the orphanage, she still seems deeply concerned for the other kids there. I've seen this expression on her face several times before. A mixture of fear and nostalgia, like a traveler leaving behind his hometown, both driven yet homesick at the same time. Well, I think everything that needed to be said has been said. I open the drawer, place the storage room keys in Nico's hand and ruffle her hair. I wasn't kidding about the only walls part, just so you know. Might want to prepare yourself mentally before you enter. Take whatever you need, just don't snatch any of my valuables. Once you've set everything up and made yourself at home, we'll have a nice dinner together and talk about everything. How does that sound? Just so we're clear, nice dinner is your way of saying instant noodles, right? You know me too well. No worries, that's fine by me. Nico picks up the enormous bag again, which sounds dangerously close to ripping apart. She drags the bag like a snail drags its shell, an apt comparison seeing how she could easily fit in it herself. Hey, and thank you. Dragging her back, she slowly disappears out of sight. Shelter, huh? I wonder which one of us is in more trouble. But that's so fascinating. So he's here for a reason in this funky, weird bookstore, but they're not touching upon it at all. It's just like, yeah, it's just a thing. He's just here, and there's this weird guy who seems to own this place, but who cannot go to the first floor because there's some kind of invisible wall there that pushes him back. Like, what the fuck is happening here? The bustling sound from upstairs still hasn't stopped. It's been that way since the afternoon. Nico seems to have settled in and gotten comfy a little too fast. She's been trained for all kinds of situations, and I don't doubt for a second that she's currently practicing all these skills upstairs, quite audibly. All the equipment takes up way too much space, but to be honest, I have neither the interest nor the qualifications to step in and get rid of it. Mainly the latter. After Nico showed why the entire building's air conditioning system for the third time, I finally have some motivation to go upstairs and help fix things, mostly out of annoyance. Turns out, I'm not as savvy attack whiz as I thought I was. By the time we finally manage to repair, the sun is coming up, dipping the horizon in a tint of golden yellow. She busies herself with a little pile of stuff she collected, her eyes glinting, and stares there for a while. Nothing I can do about that. I surrender to the feisty kid and make my way back downstairs to kill some time before the store closes. It looks like whoever is in charge of the universe isn't planning on giving me a break anytime soon. There he is! Hello there, good sir. The door opens and a tall man quietly lets himself into the store. At least he won't be dripping all over the place. His umbrella made sure of that. He slowly puts away his long umbrella after flinging the last drops of water out of the door. His movements look comically mechanical. To tell you the truth, I quite like people who do everything with an air of courtesy. Introverted self-discipline reflects a person's good character, and talking to people like that in private can lead to some interesting, calming conversations. Unfortunately, this strange guy is definitely an exception to that rule. Pardon the intrusion, I hope I'm not bothering you. It appears as if you only just came downstairs. Just fixed a couple of light bulbs, did some repairs here and there. I gotta say, you dropping by so casually is still a little weird to me, if you don't mind me saying so. But if there's one thing I've learned is that you're persistent. To what do I owe the pleasure? I've heard tell about what happened over the weekend between you and those two ladies. Just some finishing touches, you know? Asking questions, looking for clues, that's all. Also, if you had some sort of emotional attachment to any of the junk up on the second floor, let me just apologize in advance. I doubt my words would make a difference now. He shrugs, reapprove of him being able to show any emotion. I come to you bearing concerns far bigger than all pieces of furniture and how do you actually say that? Antiquities? And because it's an antique, but what's the plural? Antiquity. So normal human words is something troublesome going on again? I'm afraid that is the case. A man of your intellect must have already known that a thing as dangerous as lilac grass would not have its true origins with little school students. If that stuff was readily available and easy to get, the city would already be burning. I casually drop my notebook inside a drawer at my desk. I do care about this matter quite deeply. Idris's message leads me to conclude that there's indeed a group of people supplying it to students who then distribute it at the school. It's a very covert operation. So, how exactly did Miss Elise come to know about the supply channel? Unfortunately, she doesn't remember. I know it sounds strange, but trust me, after what those two girls went through, she wouldn't purposely hide information from me. I can guarantee that much. This might be a case of tampering with memory somehow. After all, we're talking about a group of people who have access to the real thing. It's possible that her memories were altered. What a cruel fate to fall victim to such manipulation. Still, if the source can't be located, we might all have to endure horrible suffering. Well, judging from what you've said before, you seem a little more familiar with the source, right? If I knew more, I wouldn't have to ask you for help in protecting the victims. Young people today have their own way of doing things. It pains me to admit that both you and I most likely aren't as familiar with their ways as we'd like to think. How do you do, fellow kids? In other words, setting this guy's melodrama aside, there's something brewing in a drug trafficking company. What? I make sure to take notes in my head. It's just a tiny bit of information, but maybe something to go on. So, what exactly are you implying? Awareness has already been raised successfully. For now, I want to make sure that the hidden dangers are minimized. Eloise and Cecile can definitely take care of themselves. They're tough, believe me. If you want to get rid of the looming danger, there's no other way but to tackle the whole thing at its roots. Unfortunately, today's visit is related to me bearing unpleasant news. No need to hold back or sugarcoat it. It's not like I've ever associated your visits with funny jokes and good times. I don't think Miss Eloise had any luck locating the group last weekend, did she? She didn't. Even though she knew the right code, there was no response whatsoever. A stranger should not die in the wilderness. What? My only source within the group made that statement right before abandoning all contact with me. Last weekend, actually. Sounds ominous. Something's wrong here. It seems the group already started to hide or disband while we were still quite busy with other matters. Is your informant reliable? Since you're no longer considered an associate, they might have tried to mislead you on purpose. It was this particular informant who managed to get rid of the surveillance when Miss Cecile approached you and gave me the opportunity to tip you off. Cecile had barely left the store when you arrived, so it was no coincidence. Allow me this chance to apologize. Our free time is too precious to consider more covert and secure means. I do think your whole act is way over the top. If it weren't for the fact that those books are very revealing, I'd have no idea what your true intentions are. In short, just as you place your trust in Miss Eloise, I choose to place it in you. Strangers should not die in the wilderness. It's not hard to understand that you call yourself a stranger, but what does wilderness mean in this particular case? They've always proudly called themselves missionaries, though it's hard for me to agree with that point of view. Foreigner scheming and plotting? I should have you handed over to the NSA or something. Of course, if that fuels your fire, add it to your list of things that motivate you. Needless to say, though, you'd do better to wait with that until after this matter's resolved. I do not plan on actually handing you over to the ASA. What will the NSA do with you? Oh, it's a funny man in a hat. Anyway, without more information, it's all just empty words. I wish I could take better care of Eloise and Cecile, but I've reached my limit. And that is precisely where I can help you. He opens his briefcase a little more subtly than usual. If I ever need a plasma rifle or time machine, have you got that stowed away in there too? Please, manage your expectations. He responds to my sly attempt at wit while going through the briefcase. Before, they didn't know how to use lilac grass, and naturally they had never encountered a creature like the silkworm. But with everything that has been happening, we have to consider the possibility of similar situations occurring in the future. Sounds, smells, scratches, hair, any suspicious signs must not be missed, which means you have to stay alert. And that's why you've been dropping books as heavy as bricks on my desk? I'm just gathering as much information as I can, and with no eyes on the inside now, it's all up to me. I'm on my own. I flip through the pages of one of the books, which, unlike modern paper, gives off a strange, almost sour smell. It's a depiction of a creature with many feet, 3 hands, and a long, slender tail inside. Obviously not a silkworm. You seem fairly certain I'll come across one of these things. Have there been other incidents anywhere else recently? Even we as a group cannot relate to everything that is recorded here. If Cecile dealing with the silkworm had solved all our problems, the situation would be much easier now, but that is not the case. Yeah. There's still no actual emotion in his voice, just a strong sense of purpose. Initially I was going to take this opportunity to see if he knows anything about the accident, but right now it doesn't seem like the best moment. So you really want me to read through all of this just in case? A seemingly daunting task, as I'm well aware. Nonetheless, I'm quite confident that it will pose no challenge for a man of your caliber. Whatever you say, it's not like I can leave this place anyway. Still, you were able to do what none before you have managed. Letting Cecile have another go at it could leave her scarred forever, even more than she already is. Your means will certainly not be limited by these walls. However, to make it all go more smoothly, use this knowledge to protect yourself. I can't say your concern inspires a feeling of safety in me. Every time you speak, it sounds way too ominous for my taste. Ignoring my quips, he puts away his briefcase and carefully rearranges his hat. And you are, once again, right about that. Tracking down a group of people is quite an ominous undertaking in itself. Well, it looks like my visit bore some fruit today. Time is precious, so please allow me to visit another locale to confirm something. What a busy man you are. If you find any more clues, I hope I won't have to remind you to share them. Certainly not. My compliments, and have a most pleasant evening. The sound of his leather shoes clacking on the ground becomes more distant by the second, soon disappearing into the evening air. My compliments. Another evening on the drain without a hint of free time for myself. New books! New books! Yeah! Which one of these is the new one? Is this one new? Tomb. No, tomb construction was not new. We already know this one, right? This one is new. A short book wrapped in craft paper. The author is unknown. It's barely being held together. They're reinforcing staples on both sides to stop it from falling apart, and it has many dark spots. A lot of the pages look ripped, and some were even replaced or rewritten by hand. This book has definitely been through a lot. The book contains a large number of symbols and obscure imagery. The author examines them and explains their meaning, pointing out the significance of these symbols in various religious ceremonies. The whole book divides these symbols into 4 eccentric categories: identity, physical objects, behavior, and purpose. A symbol doesn't just appear in a category. In fact, the author assigns a meaning to each symbol according to its importance and makes use of an odd logic of categorization. For example, one symbol is categorized as servant, forest, blood, and communication. At the same time, and the author interprets it as a servant of some sort of group who is responsible for providing blood in a forest ritual of communication. That's like, oh, make a sentence with these 4 keywords. That's what this sounds like. This one, shrines, gods, and messengers. A handmade book with a unique binding. The author is unknown. The book looks very obscure. The front and back cover have a plating made of walnut wood held together by a string made of sheep's intestines. Ooh. The author writes about bizarre advanced creatures. He claims that they have a strong spiritual connection to beings he refers to as ancient gods. This connection is the reason for the mindless servitude and them viewing these ancient gods as masters. So many of these creatures are mentioned that I have to write them down one by one to give them some kind of order. The writing style and font are unusually delicate, immediately drawing in the reader and giving them a strange sense of familiarity. Halberd. This book shows modern craftsmanship, but it still looks very tattered. The book is framed in a very traditional style. The corner of the cover is cracked, and the remaining part of the cover has traces of some kind of seal, obscuring everything but the word collection. The book seems to have changed hands many times. The surface is damaged, some of the pages are dangerously close to falling out, and when you flip through them. The front page has been glued to hard paper and was printed in red. It contains quotes from historical leaders of the past. This book is an extensive and detailed record of an ancient general's various conquests and expeditions. It chronicles every single victory and loss. After every victory, he would lead his entire army to hold a grand sacrifice, holding up a seal towards the sky. The text says, "We shall forever stand like rocks and be remembered. They will chant our names in glorious songs and celebrate us in joyous dance. Let the beast be forever on our side. Follow the ceremonial rites and chant along, with your voice twice as loud and your harvest twice as fruitful. Let us bask in joy and happiness, for good fortune shall favor us, and we shall be protected against whatever sorrow and misery lies out there." The book describes the exact time and cardinal point at which each sacrifice was held, but the format doesn't resemble that of any known calendar. The author drew a star with a strange mark on it on the last page. Its meaning is unclear. Okay, we know this one, we've read this one. That's a new one. A Chinese edition of the Cthulhu myth. I wonder if the publisher realized that the cover contained a dangerous Necronomicon logo. The first thing you see upon opening the book is a vintage poster with eerie photos, unsettling news articles, and mysterious maps. This book contains some of Lovecraft's more famous novels, The Call of Cthulhu, The Temple, and From Beyond among them. Some of the pages contain creepy handwritten notes. While this is obviously a clever gimmick to make the reading experience more immersive, it seems almost too real. In The Whisper in Darkness, for example, parts of the letters sent in the story were replaced by actual handwriting. They even added fake coffee stains to it. The last story, The Dunwich Horror, is about the outer god Yog-Sothoth. It's the only story in which Yog-Sothoth's human offspring is mentioned. The translator's name is Yao Xianghut. I think I've heard that name before. Oh, did you know? So all of the books down here are the different editions of Cthulhu myths? Okay. Is there anything new up here? No. Okay. I wanna I wonder if any of these books exist like for real, or if they're all just references to maybe existing books. Here are the details of tonight's special report. Recently, international organizations have found large-scale shipwrecks in the waters east of Manila, the Philippines. Investigations have been launched. It has been reported that, judging from the number of parts that were found, about 5 vessels must have sunk. No official ship registration numbers were found at the salvage site, which fueled theories of them being illegal fishing vessels. The analysis has been slow due to an advanced stage of erosion. According to experts, the vessels most likely sank around 3 years ago. No remains have been found during the initial deep dive salvage operation. A list of recovered clothing items and personal belongings has been made public by Filipino authorities and the International Maritime Organization. The discovery is being taken very seriously, given the number of incidents that have occurred in the area in recent years. The International Maritime... It's not maritime, it's maritime, probably. Maritime Organization will hold a more detailed press conference in the coming days. It's a cruel world out there. I don't really know much about sea travel. Judging from the news, accidents still happen frequently. If they really were illegal fishing vessels, it's not at all surprising that they didn't call for help. However, no bodies were found and the crew members may have managed to escape. It's somewhat strange that the wreckage suddenly appeared just like that after 3 years. There's a lot of maritime activity around the Philippines, so it should have been discovered much earlier. What happened out there? It didn't even happen that far away. Was it really just a regular accident? I should stay vigilant and keep an eye out for strange things happening in other places as well. But right now I can't really do anything about it. I should concentrate on the task at hand. Okay. What do we have here? Oh shoot, I totally forgot to return the TAT book. I forgot about that too actually. It makes me feel like I'm doing a lousy job. I'm sorry, I'm really busy this week. I'll try to make time for it. It's okay, take it easy. Right now isn't a good time to come over anyway. Is something wrong? It's nothing. Just a whole lot of things to take care of. If you need help with anything, call me. Thanks, I appreciate that. By the way, just of curiosity, who told you about Trail of the Missing Fish in the first place? Didn't you mention that somebody recommended it to you? Sorry for all the trouble. It's not trouble, just curious about what the person who told you what it looks like. Actually, I can't remember him too well. He was a tall man. He looked like a foreigner, but he spoke Chinese very well. What's wrong? I seem to have forgotten what he looks like. I'm sorry. I just had a hunch that maybe that guy had something to do with it. Don't worry about it. Please just let me know if you remember anything. Thank you so much for following. Good evening. Of course will do. I'm sure I remember eventually. Maybe if they're fucking with your memories, you will not remember it. Whoa! Oh, it's so bright every fucking time. What's the deal with chickenbox.com? Nico told me about this site once. It seems like her internet friends are active on this site too. I should ask her about it sometime. This is a thread related to the website chickenbox.com, focusing on recommendations, comments, and complaints about the content. Posts related to the topic have been very scattered recently, resulting in a lot of duplicated posts and spam. I want to focus the discussion in this forum. For the Chickenbox website, click here. These are the archived articles. What is really going on with Chickenbox host Jordan Miller? What is Chickenbox? Chickenbox Insider, Fantasy News Program. A recent Chickenbox article was plagiarized from the White Goose Chronicle. Chickenbox has responded to accusations of plagiarism. This is the first and only time I will criticize Chickenbox. Can't Chickenbox just be honest about their game content? Petition disliking Chickenbox. Is this the end of Chickenbox? Their downfall is certain. Chickenbox content doesn't seem right. Other related posts. Nice work, man. I mean, their service is free. There isn't enough press for games and it's spread out all over the place. Most users still listen to them, but somehow it all feels a little different nowadays. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like they're doing fishy stuff. How can a Chickenbox article be better than an honest and meaningful discussion? A lot of people love Chickenbox and do visit their website every day. There's so many posts about them here. People on this forum must really love their site. Chickenbox really should write an article about this forum. Should they? The most interesting thing for me here is we have 80 points, which more... If this works like, I don't know, fucking Reddit or something, shouldn't that mean he wrote some messages before to get to 80 points? Razor Pins would make an awesome VR game. I had an amazing idea while searching through the forum today during lunch and decided that I wanted to discuss it with you, my friends. A chicken box! Yeah! Chicken box, the website. The Razor Prince is a 2.5D horizontal action game in which you play a boy who enters a magical world. Here's an introduction to the game. The player experiences the game like a spectator at a puppet show. There's so much potential to this idea if it could be developed as a VR game in which a player sits in the first row while the story unfolds on a stage in front of him. The advantages of this design are, although it would be VR, the game could be played sitting down in a very traditional way and for a long period of time without experiencing any dizziness. The whole thing is less demanding when it comes to rendering. Essentially, the player is the audience. Although it's basically a 2D landscape, there's some unique interaction because it's VR. You are tapped out, that's perfectly fine. No, it's chicken box. Box. Apart from the main character, the player controls various characters on the stage as well, such as a princess or cute animal. Although the main character doesn't speak, another character could say things like, the enemy's coming, turn back. If the player doesn't, the character will say, come on, it's too dangerous. If the player then turns around completely, something will startle them from behind. If they don't turn around, something will fly over their head and onto the stage in front of them. Although there's a main stage, the entire 360 of the game is the playing field. This way, the gameplay is optimized and a long and enjoyable gaming experience is guaranteed. Personally, I think VR games are getting more and more popular these days. Yes, a game with realistic textures and a detailed 3D landscape is great to play in VR. If you only consider one main perspective of the game, you lose its potential for VR. This is one game I love from the PS3 generation that kind of went in that direction. Unfortunately, the Japanese games market seemed to have forgotten about it. VR is also good for metagames. Some of the narrative masterpieces from a decade ago would also be great for VR. Anyone else remember Prince of Tesma? I've got to admit that in the end I never finished the last boss fight. I wonder. I think the new feature that we're talking about in the latest issue of Max 3 Gaming magazine might be the closest thing to Kano's idea. Okay. The way horror movies influence our psyche without us realizing it. I've been rewatching Digital Theory recently. I'm just now realizing how much post-production went into it. I'm still impressed by the good story, which is right up there with what most people consider the best ever written. But the part where Shuri is possessed by the Emperor's malevolent demon, I'm in college now and I still get a chill down my spine every time I see her in a scene. When I was a kid, this really messed with my mental health and I used to have nightmares every night. Actually, I just had a nightmare like that a few days ago. Wasn't the show censored back then? Wouldn't I have received loads of complaints if kids saw it? Japanese kids seem pretty precautious. There's a series of children's book called Odd Tale that released an anime series and companion video games as well. I played the Nintendo DS version of it. Oh, they're allowed to drop both PS3 and Nintendo DS as like just straight up things you can say in here. Hi room, good evening. How you doing? Since it's a collection of weird tales, it contains a few ghost stories, and even when the protagonist is a young kid, they still suffer a tragic fate. There's a story called The Million-Year-Old Curse, which is about a naughty child who touches a fossil and is consequently cursed by it, transforming into a dinosaur. As all dinosaurs, he becomes extinct and ends up as a fossil in the ground for over 65 million years. The plot is so cruel that even adults have a hard time playing that storyline. The proper setting can speak to the human consciousness and induce fear, which is an education in itself. The Emperor's malevolent demon is a man-made evil spirit. It's so cool. Japan has always had a larger target audience than other Asian countries. Naruto? Believe it! For example, is broadcasted during prime family time in Japan, but in other countries it's shown late in the evening. And of course, there are plenty of other series like that. One Piece, Bleach, My Hero Academia. What the hell is happening here? It's so fascinating though. Out of the, the big three from back then, only One Piece is still running. Right? Like Bleach is over, has been for a long time now. Naruto is over. Boruto is definitely not reaching the same heights as Naruto. One Piece is still running. Hero Academia is now considered one of the big three, I'm guessing. The modern big three. What else would you consider the modern big ones? Maybe Jujutsu Kaisen? I'm not sure. Like it feels like it's still too new. I wouldn't count Demon Slayer either, because they finished up Demon Slayer. Like, sure, it was extremely popular for a time, but they finished that up already. And like, even then, it's like, sure, it's a modern stuff, but I don't think they will rise to the same heights as like Naruto and One Piece did back then. You're doing okay. Today's been easier than last two. Oh, that's good to hear. I'm good. I had dinner earlier, so that's nice. It's just this fucking fake website here is really, really grating on my ears. Ears? On my eyes. On my ears? What? On my eyes. On my eyes, because it's so bright. Oh, right, Dragon Ball. I was never into Dragon Ball. It's not my kind of style at all. JoJo. Right. Everyone would have heard of JoJo at least, even if you have never seen it. I think that's the thing, right? That's when something is really popular. It's like, even if you never checked it out for yourself, you've heard of it and you know at least a few things that happen in there, or some characters and stuff. Took me a second to realize that was the game. Yeah, right? It is the game. It looks like a very normal web page, actually. Diablos, what? Watching Diablo's adventures as a kid left a really deep impression on me. Actually, the more obvious example is Kiritaro. It's darker and scarier than Diablo's adventures and has been popular for decades. However, it did have some elements that weren't well received. For example, there was a part where Kiritaro's brother and sister-in-law fought against each other in a civil war. The show received so much negative feedback that it never included any elements like that again. You guys must not have seen the new episodes of Kiritaro that came out this year. They're definitely for adults. What is this? What is this? No, I'm not cursing for to be real. Ah, true. But did Europe have a figure like Qin Shi Huang? Was the unification of the Qin dynasty an anomaly in history? How come that worked out? While in Europe they could never put aside the ethnic differences between Germanic and Latin people, even though the situation is just about the same as in China, with people from the north and south. Geographically speaking, the plains of Europe are way more convenient for trade, travel and transportation, so why was there never again another empire as huge as the Frankish one? What? During the Qin dynasty, lots of philosophers had already made the ideology of unification popular, so that's one explanation. Thank you for the show, everything. Because religion stands above royalty, all royals are subjects of the Pope. Ultimately, that results in many smaller vassal states, the direct opposite of actual unity. That's the biggest issue. When kings and emperors put themselves above religion, they are able to unite, to conquer, to divide. It's the only way for empires to massively expand their territory independently. I get that geography is a big factor, and don't forget about the Roman Empire. Oh my god, what is this? A history lesson? The Roman Empire went downhill just as the Christians took over. Less than 100 years after Constantine declared Christianity the state religion, the city of Rome was destroyed by the Western Goths. The fall of the Roman Empire, once the largest and most unified in all of Europe, serves as a great example for the relationship between state leadership and religion. Did you know that Christian priests even had automatic military authority? Let that sink in for a moment. The Romans actually abandoned their old gods completely. Do you know how big of an event that is for such a huge population? Geopolitics are a very important factor too, but religion is the main reason there's never been a great unified European empire. That is very true though. Religion is the main reason for a lot of fucked up stuff in our history. It is believed that the era of seafaring led mankind to modern civilization. It was a major step forward in all aspects of science, technology, economy, politics, and culture. One of the key factors that led to these enhancements was that the Mediterranean Sea was blocked by the Ottoman Turks. What choices do you think the people of Iberia had left? How would they get through the winter without having any meat or even simple spices available? How about events such as the Crusade resulting in a crippling blow against the Byzantine Empire? You could say it was out of vengeance, but at the end of the day there were always religious powers at play. In this case, the Pope's urgent wish to conquer the Holy Land. So true, bestie. Oh my god, what is this? This is... You know what this feels like? When you go on a random subreddit and you just have people writing essays in the comments of just a very short one-off thing where someone is like, oh hey, I was interested in this and that. but I don't really get it. And then you will inevitably have some experts and like actual people who know what they're talking about go off in the comments. This is what this feels like right now. Like, hello? This is one of the historical myths concocted by recent Western colonists in search of justification for invading the already declining Ottoman Empire. Trade in Constantinople was firmly controlled by the Genoese and the Venetians as early as the late Byzantine era, but also through competitive trade and or alliances with Turkey. This includes war. Venice succeeded in driving away the Genoese and establishing even more of a monopoly for themselves. The Sultan of Turkey has always welcomed the great financial benefits that the Venetian merchants brought, and it's no secret that the Florentine bankers managed the Sultan's wealth. You know why the Sultan stayed close to Lorenzo Medici throughout all the turmoil? Because no one has a problem with money. How long is this? Back then, if a person got caught in a storm during a spice trade and lost valuable Indian herbs and spices, they usually didn't travel all the way back to India. They just went to Venice and bought expensive pepper to cover their losses and replaced their product. Venice was the only place where you could get things like that, and all of that was because of the maritime trade routes. People often forget about how powerful Venice was, if only for its position in the sea. They had a huge fleet and one of the largest mercenary contingents at the time, a true power to behold. It was also about the political system, electing a governor that could bypass everyone's vote, who wanted to establish himself as a dictator and then got his head chopped off by a lynch mob. Rinse and repeat. Venice is a republic, not an empire. The root of capitalism had already been planted before being defeated by the combined forces of Spain and France. Venice wasn't exactly defeated. There were internal struggles among the attackers. The Divine Alliance, a follower was the Veneto-Papal Alliance, a precursor to the Holy League, and Venice opted to join in. Capitalism, especially in its infancy, is a highly unspecific and confusing term. It was around long before the Greco-Roman era, as making a profit is something that states, empires, and countries, no matter how small or big, depend on to thrive, expand, or trade. Over the course of history, its definition has been skewed by wannabe historians who don't understand that you can't compare trade and economy from back then with modern standards. What the actual hell is this thread? Hi, good evening. What's going on? We're trying to catch up on all the latest news on this very real webpage in game, and I just received a history lesson apparently. No, I think I would realize if I'm reading the exact same text over and over. I pride myself in realizing those kinds of things very easily. Okay. Oh my god. Alright. The Universe of Darkness and Nothingness, an introduction to the Cthulhu myth. The author Jiu Yu published in Fantasy 101 on June 6, 2007. Minor editorial changes made. Lovecraft and the Cthulhu mythos. In recent years, China has become much more familiar with classic fictional literature, as Western fantasy and sci-fi series have made a huge impact in popular culture. However, one of the biggest, most revered classics of modern horror literature, the Cthulhu mythos, remains elusive even to this day. Strictly speaking, it falls under the horror genre. However, its creatures, concepts, and stylistic choices has left a mark on just about every type of media and genre. Being so tremendously popular, it is only right to take a look at the mastermind behind it all, Howard Phillips Lovecraft. I wanna die. In 1890, Lovecraft was born in Providence, Rhode Island, USA. His father had a long struggle with mental illness, and so did Lovecraft, often finding himself unable to attend school. Lovecraft grew up with love and passion for literature, trying his hand at writing his own stories at the age of 6, contributing to newspaper articles by the age of 16. Before turning 18 and going to college, he suddenly opted to drop out of school, the reason being his mental illness. And I have hiccups. And stayed with his mother for 5 years with next to no contact with the outside world. Respectfully, 5 years in isolation is enough to cause anyone to develop mental issues. Hey! Thank you for the heart attack at the back. Okay, 1 second. We can see an end at least. At age 31, Lovecraft reached a turning point and made some changes. Over the next 16 years, all the way up until his death, he focused completely on writing horror fiction. He made a living by pitching his novels to horror pulp magazines such as Weird Tales. His story, The Call of Cthulhu, written in 1926, published in 1928, is representative of the main tone of his work, revolving around the so-called rulers of the old days, powerful forces that once ruled the earth in ancient times, but are now resting in death-like slumber. Here, Cthulhu is mentioned for the first time, lying dormant in a lost sunken city of R'lyeh in the South Pacific. When the stars are in the right place, R'lyeh will rise up from the ocean bed, and an awakened Cthulhu will wreak havoc across the earth. Lovecraft gradually created his own myth and shared it with friends of his, like-minded authors who inspired and supported each other. These included R.E. Howard, author of the Conan the Barbarian series, C.S. Smith, and others, all of whom gained respect amongst their peers and became famous themselves. People within this creative circle even wrote about each other's fictional universes. R.E. Howard also wrote Cthulhu-style works, and the Cthulhu mythology even plays a role during the Hyborian Age, the setting for Conan the Barbarian. History audiobook narrations 1. When I actually learn how to pronounce these words properly. You know that the problem here is if you try to... Every complicated word costs extra. That's exactly the problem. You cannot do book narrations if you don't actually know how to pronounce these words. The oldest and strongest human emotion is fear, and the oldest and strongest fear is the fear of the unknown. H.P. Lovecraft, Supernatural Horror in Literature. Lovecraft's work stems directly from his own feelings about the world, and some of the imagery he conjures up is based on his nightmares. In this world, faced with a cold, ruthless universe full of malice lurking in the darkness, mankind is utterly powerless. It's particularly remarkable that Lovecraft never used the traditional props of horror novels such as ghosts, vampires, and werewolves to scare people. He despised best-selling authors of the time who incorporated such old sticks in their stories. In fact, in some of his novels, the actual source of the horror never appears at all. He's very good at creating his impressions of the odd, old, and decaying, and emphasizing traits to an unsettling degree. Horror stories set in old colonial buildings, degenerate human beings roaming the rotten shores, alien monsters living off the beaten path out of sight. These are common recurring themes in his works, just like curtains that are pulled open just enough to peer into the vast, mysterious, malevolent opposite world. A world that existed in Lovecraft's mind, a glimpse at his psyche. This is what distinguishes his novels from those that know only to scare people with obvious, blatantly scary things, and gives his work a wholly unique charm. And you want a Pikachu? Okay. You get a Pikachu in the middle of the Lovecraft explanation.
Pikachu! Pika pika! Pikachu!
In Lovecraft's novels, the reader is constantly aware of an unseen danger. Beyond your ordinary field of vision lies a dimension of inexplicable madness that envelops all. This darkness is so profound that mankind could never comprehend it. The two worlds constantly overlap, and through expert penmanship, he maintains a sense of realism that makes it all the more unnerving. The real world is, in this case, shaken up by creatures and beings too much for the human mind to bear. Dark servants in abandoned houses in the wilderness, ancient gods resting underneath thick sheets of Antarctic ice, Ubusatla, the origin of all things, a word connected to things beyond comprehension that, if stumbled upon, could easily shatter the very foundation of everything we thought to know. Oh my god, hello Shah! Hi Raiders, welcome! Also Room, thank you so much for coming. Hi Shah! Welcome Raiders! Raid message, anyone? Welcome! Hi Raiders, my name is Noah. I like the color pink, visual novels and JRPGs. You forgot the raid message, that's perfectly fine. Welcome, welcome. Do not be afraid of the massive amount of text you can see right now. You gotta leave for dinner, that is okay. I hope you had a fun stream. Also, why is my shout out not working? Is my bot down again? God damn it. I hope you had a fun stream. Yeah, we're playing a visual novel which has which lets you go on the internet, and on that internet you can go to a website that is it's a forum, and in this specific thread we're apparently finding out literally everything about Lovecraft. So if you ever wanted to know about Lovecraft, listen up, because I'm going to read all of this out, and we're like 2 posts into it. I do not know how it's going to relate to this specific case, but it is what it is. Also, oh yeah, right, Pikachu's on cooldown. Oh, no Pikachu for the raiders. Thank you for the Kirsten Yannery. Lovecraft, yeah. Visual novel is also referencing a lot of Lovecraftian stuff, which sadly is definitely like just running past me. I have not read a single one of Lovecraft's books, so I cannot tell. Thank you, Sha. Get some nice food. Get some rest. Some people venture too far, leading to their demise, but only after a long and painful descent into madness. But some have managed to keep records of the events leading up to the end, the most famous example being Lovecraft's fictionalized Necronomicon, a book of horror and magic that has gained unparalleled notoriety. It has been quoted so often by some people in occult circles that a few actually believe it to be real, though ultimately you can easily discern that it is all based on Lovecraft's detailed fiction. Oh, we're getting some shorter posts, okay. The Changing World of Mythology. In 1936, R.E. Howard committed suicide, which dealt a great blow to Lovecraft, who died a year later. All his life he tried to capture the fears he had, fears that were distant, invisible, yet seemed extremely real. Lovecraft's social circle remained small throughout his life. A young man of 27 was part of that circle. He didn't have Lovecraft's talent, nor the literary prowess of the likes of C.A. Smith, but from the first day that he read Lovecraft's novels, he worshipped the Providence naive with all his heart and became a lifelong supporter. Native, not naive. For him, Lovecraft was a legend with a reputation that would last long past his death. In order to make this conviction a reality, he began to organize Lovecraft's legacy, and when he saw that no publisher would bite, he set up a publishing company himself in 1939, Arkham House. Next post, double length, why would you say that? You are apparently right. Meet August William Derleth, a man for whom the Cthulhu myths were impossible to ignore. Through his efforts and over a period of decades, Lovecraft's writing gradually emerged from the vault and finally gained worldwide fame. But he did more than that. As the heir to the copyright of his work, Derleth further refined the backstory of the Cthulhu mythos, constructing a rough framework to build upon. But, unlike the atheist Lovecraft, Derleth was a Catholic. In constructing the framework, he inevitably reconciles the chaotic and hopeless universe of Lovecraft's mind into a battlefield of factional rivalries, and that's the theme of a struggle between good and evil. No matter how you put it, it's completely different than what Lovecraft originally intended. In these novels, while humanity is still in a universe of infinite darkness, the subject matter is no longer utterly terrifying. In Derleth's hands, the universe became more organized and expansive, but to be honest, it only makes sense for something in the games genre. In fact, an excellent role-playing game was created based on this version of the Cthulhu mythos. It's called The Call of Cthulhu. Derleth grossly simplified and altered the myth of Cthulhu. Since he made the Cthulhu mythological background available to the public in 1960, there's been a large number of writers who have written within the setting. While there are a few notable names, such as Stephen King, hey, that's a name I recognize, though I've not written a single one of his books either. Read a single one of his books. Many shoddy amateur writers have created more crude creations. Some works borrow only minor things from the mythology of Cthulhu, but many more simple enumerate nouns and pile on allusions to far greater works. The formula has been used innumerable times. Evil gods, investigate, madness, end. Even Derleth himself could not shake off this obvious influence. His work, in terms of plot, story structure, and writing, is full of admiration for Lovecraft. But unfortunately, he didn't have Lovecraft's talent for describing the roots of terror, let alone the nightmarish sense of suffocation. No matter how much Lovecraft's famous lines were applied, what Derleth wrote is nothing more than a second-rate fantasy adventure. Hitting one note doesn't mean the tune's a good one overall. In any case, it should be positively acknowledged that Derleth is credited with the promotion and refinement of the Cthulhu mythos, and when he died in 1971, he left behind a grand framework of the setting that had been largely perfected. Without Derleth's efforts, Lovecraft and his work would probably be long forgotten, and the Cthulhu mythos would not have had the widespread impact it has today. It would be cool if I could copy the text and put it through text-to-speech. Very true. I can sadly not copy anything here. Also, a belated Pikachu for the Raiders. Okay.
Pikachu. Pika pika. Pikachu.
Woo. That was loud. I'm sorry. The structure of the Cthulhu mythos. To put it simply, there's no structure. Names that humans can't pronounce or translate are commonplace among the old gods of ancient times. Although loosely held together by common themes, Lovecraft's intention was never to establish a full-fledged universe, though he did come up with concepts in some of his private notes. At the beginning of the universe, only Azathoth existed. His offspring followed: the darkness, the nameless mist, and the crawling of chaos. The darkness was birthed Shub-Niggurath, the All-Mother, who gave birth to almost all the rulers of the old days, including Cthulhu and all life. The nameless mist's offspring is called Yog-Sothoth, with infinite knowledge of time and space, and Chaos's offspring is called Nyarlathotep, the messenger and representative of all the gods, a symbol of horror and contradiction. What followed had nothing to do with Lovecraft, who would have never imagined his universe to take on such dimensions. Many different authors have chosen to add to the myth, and the only way to truly understand it is to simply pick up one of the novels and dive right in. People have always attempted to add structure and certain laws to this universe, so now we have two sets of genealogies, one of which is used by the role-playing game and the other by Lynn Carter and Lovecraft, a look behind the Cthulhu mythos. They are obviously different, and no one can say which of these is more authoritative. It all depends on your preference. Great Old Ones and Outer Gods. As the name implies, Great Old Ones ruled the universe in ancient times, but after the defeat they were imprisoned in all parts of the universe except for Nyarlathotep. To a certain extent, they also have to follow the laws of the universe, but never to an extent that could be even remotely understood by a human mind. Mankind can try to draw upon their powers, but this always comes at an incredible price. Oftentimes it isn't possible to distinguish clearly between the Great Old Ones and the Outer Gods, because many of these concepts stem from sources other than the novels. Great Old Ones are often considered to be closer to the mortal realm and less powerful than the Outer Gods. For example, the sleeping Cthulhu is associated with water, while its enemy Hastur is associated with wind and air. In some instances, Hastur even helps humans to ward off Cthulhu. Nyarlathotep is also unjustifiably associated with the earth element sometimes. Its counterpart is the element of fire, represented by Kituka, all thanks to Derlet's bright idea of making it all about elements. Elder Gods. Elder Gods are one of the most heavily criticized inventions by Derleth. They are benevolent entities of old that fight against the Outer Gods, taking the human side. To true fans, this was nothing short of a betrayal towards Lovecraft. Sure, it expands the framework, but at what cost? Is it worth tearing apart the original idea just to simplify things for casual readers? Servants and other races. Obviously, powerful beings such as the Old Ones don't have to do everything themselves, so multiple alien species, some from underneath the deep crust of the Earth, some from outer space, have been introduced over time. They are intimidating and carry out the will of the gods they worship without any scruples or sense of morality. Derivative work. Predictably, something with so much material to draw from is bound to be turned into films and games. To date, there have been many comics, games, and movies based on elements from the Cthulhu mythology, and one of the most interesting combinations is Nitro Plus's all-ages remake of the 18-plus eroge Gaul game Demon Bane, released in 2003 and 2004 respectively. We're name dropping a Nitro Plus game of an 18 plus eroge? What is going on? The setting of Demon Bane is based entirely on the mythology of Cthulhu, which takes an extreme version of Derlet's framework and cleverly uses this vastly disjointed system to its advantage, creating an atmosphere of sinister mystery. However, it is by no means a Cthulhu-esque story, just a hot-blooded battle romance drama borrowing heavily from the setting. Its overall attitude is completely different from that of other Cthulhu stories, and is not intended to exaggerate the horrors of the dark world and the powerlessness of mankind, but to show how humans, in the midst of boundless despair, rise up to fight for hope. It is a prime example of the infinite possibilities of Cthulhu mythology. You definitely missed that part? Me too. I mean, next they're gonna... What surprises me is how they can just straight up name all of these things. Like, it's one thing to make a reference and like change up the name a little bit so you would still recognize it, but they would not get in trouble for like mentioning it. But what? Final thoughts. As of this year, it has been 70 years since Lovecraft left this world, as well as the modern dark horror mythos he created behind him. He has inspired countless people and will continue to do so forever, as his name lives on in so many different ways. After his death, Lovecraft was buried in Swan Point Cemetery, his family's cemetery on the outskirts of Providence. The cemetery is so remote that even the locals don't know much about it. For a long time, he didn't even have his own headstone, and in 1977, fans of his books who wouldn't accept this funded the construction of a tombstone for him. The tombstone bears only the name of the deceased, the date of his death, and a short epitaph, "I am Providence." The phrase carries a double meaning as the name of a location, I am a man of Providence, and as a noun, I am a man of Providence. On the Great Old Ones and Outer Gods from the Book of the Dead by Abdul Al-Hazred. Nor is it to be thought that man is either the oldest or the last of Earth's masters, or that the common bulk of life and substance walks alone. The old ones were, the old ones are, and the old ones shall be. Not in the spaces we know, but between them they walk serene and primal, undimensioned and to us unseen. Yog-Sothoth knows the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the key and guardian of the gate. Past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth. He knows where the old ones broke through of old and where they shall break through again. He knows where they had trod Earth's fields and where they still tread them, and why no one can behold them as they tread. By their smell can man sometimes know them near, but of their semblance can no man know, saving only in the features of those they have begotten on mankind, and of those are there many sorts, differing in likeness from man's truest eidolon to the shape without sight or substance which is them. They walk unseen and foul in lonely places where the words have been spoken and the rites hold throughout the seasons. The wind gibbers with their voices and the earth mutters with their consciousness. They bend the forest and crush the city, yet may not forest or city behold the hand that smites. Kadath in the cold waste hath known them, and what man knows Kadath? The ice desert of the south. Oh my fucking god, I can't do this anymore. The ice desert. Which one of these is the place again? The ice desert? Of the south and the sunken isles of ocean hold stones whereon their seal is engraven, but who hath seen the deep frozen city or the seal tower long garlanded with seaweed and barnacles? Great Cthulhu is their cousin, yet can he spy them only dimly. Yeah, Shub Nigurath, as a foulness shall ye know them. The hand is at your throats, yet ye see them not, and their habitation is even one with your guarded threshold. Yog-Sothoth is the key to the gate, whereby the spheres meet. Man rules now where they ruled once. They shall soon rule where man rules now. After summer is winter, after winter summer. They wait patient and potent, for here shall they reign again. Honestly, if I was a moderator on whichever fucking forum this one person has just straight up written 8 posts in a row, I think I would ban them, at least like for a day. Like, okay, calm down. Calm the fuck down. All of this was written by the same user, excuse me. Bookmark it for later. Hope I get an all-encompassing detailed companion with a decent translation soon. Could I quote some of that stuff in my blog? I credit you, of course. Astaroth, he's somewhere underground. Cthulhu underwater. Yog-Sothoth, since he's described as cosmic, I say he's in the air, if that makes sense. Nyarlathotep, he takes on a human form sometimes. Tzatogua, again underground. Those are translated names I found in a book detailing the Cthulhu mythos. Didn't they just say there's like 500,000 books on the Cthulhu mythos? Bro. Cthulhu defends unite! The language used in the originals is so complex and unique that I often think that the reason we don't have perfect Chinese or Taiwanese translations yet. That's the reason, yeah. Now Gaiman wrote a short story combining Lovecraft's universe and Sherlock Holmes stories. What the fuck? What? What? Sherlock Holmes goes to investigate Cthulhu, what? A Study in Emerald. Not the most horrifying book as far as scare factor is concerned, but a great read nonetheless. For a pretty good translation of the various names, I'd recommend the 6th edition of the Call of Cthulhu rulebook. P.S. Feel free to copy things from my original post, just credit me. Something that I've always wondered is why people refer to it as a myth when the author himself labels it all as science fiction. I mean, they refer to it as gods, but ultimately that just means beings that are supremely powerful. And being more powerful than a human isn't that impressive when it comes down to it. Oh, okay. What the actual fuck was that? What the actual fuck? I'm aware that this visual novel does play on some Lovecraftian theories and it's like a kind of a love letter to some of it, apparently. But, okay, I guess that was needed. You know what, we're just gonna go to the next day. We're gonna go to the next day and hope that something funny will happen, maybe, where I don't have to stumble over very hard to pronounce words. Because it would be one thing if I just had to read it in my head. No one would have to hear me stumble over these words. Thank you for the highlight time. Jesus Christ. No wonder people say this game is long. It's like 20, maybe 30 hours if you read it by yourself. But I think I just ended like 20 minutes just by reading through that one thread. Funny the destination took more time than expected. It isn't completely unknown. Anyone interested in the city's stories and customs will have heard this street name before. Its tranquility and elegance is well known amongst the citizens as if it were a unique work of art. But appreciating art and doing the actual work are two very different things. There are a fair number of old houses left in the neighborhood, and he loves to count as historical properties that line the streets, but it's fairly difficult to identify a specific building. All words were made up at some point anyway. You know what? You are so right. You're so right. Who the fuck are you? Sherlock Holmes? At the corner of an intersection with trees planted along the sidewalk, do none of these stores actually have a house number? The fast-paced lifestyle the city is known for seems not to exist in these streets. It's so quiet that even the air seems hollow. No wonder that place is here. If it weren't for his particular hobby, or if he had anything better to do, this place would remain no more than a work of art to him. Something he'd heard about but would never want to visit in person. Right now, the few words he can remember are becoming more and more like a treasure map. Disorientation seems to be a given in this place, but fortunately he's an expert at checking door to door and finding locations. Ground floor, glass windows, often closed, but I have a sign hanging outside. That's it. It's definitely an eye-catcher. There might be something more to the house than its awkward and conspicuous exterior. He can't put his finger on what it is exactly, and can't be bothered to find out anyway. He isn't here for the building, but for what is lurking inside. What would be the best way to start? Making his way towards the door, he readies himself for what might happen next. Hi! Who are you? Why are you here? It's been a quiet morning up until now without any interruptions or disturbances. The lights on the street outside seem to have strange restorative powers. After Cecile's fight was over, it feels as if the reset button has been pushed in a bookstore. All the stress and excitement from last week seems like a dream. You know what's funny? It's actually genuinely last week because we last played this game on Sunday. I like when these timings coincide because it feels like most of the time we have played games that take place during the winter months in the middle of summer and the other way around. So at least the whole, oh, this happened last week actually happened last week. That's funny. It is quiet upstairs, so Nico probably isn't up yet. She's always been better at staying up late than an actual cat, as her name suggests. She also spends way more time daydreaming. If you tease her about this and worry about her health, you get all sorts of nasty remarks thrown back at you. It's like walking through a minefield. We all got used to it pretty quickly and stopped lecturing her. Scarlett hasn't replied to my inquiry yet. After she left Hermitage yesterday, she just disappeared from the face of the earth. If she's made her mind up and is ignoring it on purpose, there isn't really anything else I can do to find out more about Nico's circumstances, but it doesn't seem like something Scarlett would do, which makes me even more worried. Well, I guess that's the downside of living and working like this. All I can do is put my trust in my unreliable but smart friends. She'd probably drop by once she's done with work. She wouldn't just leave Nico behind. Now is no time to be worrying about it. It's rare to have a new customer at Hermitage, so I'll set aside the lawyer situation for a moment. I see so many familiar faces in this shop and nothing good ever seems to come out of it, so I'm hoping to find a little bit of normalcy in new customers. Aha! No, the guy has an actual sprite. The unfamiliar visitor is standing in front of one of the shelves, scanning the spines of various books. His fingers are hovering in front of the books, as if this were some sort of reading habit. The man looks quite young, probably in his mid-20s, but his attire isn't that of a college student. He's wearing a casual hat and his coat is a little oversized. If it weren't for the fact that he's a hat shorter than me, he would resemble a certain annoying someone who also wears a trench coat like that. I mean, maybe if this game turns out to have some time travel shenanigans, maybe it's a different version of him, but we'll go with completely different person for now. I just hope he won't be as much trouble as that guy. It's always a little awkward being the owner of the shop, trying to find a few interesting customers to talk to, but not really wanting them to know too much about you. Oh, that's really... He lets out a little gasp. He seems to know his stuff. Not too shabby, is it? Indeed, this is the first time I've seen the Codex Seraphim in real life. I've only ever seen it on pictures before. Tell me, is it the real thing? Not quite. I know exactly which book he's asking about, but the edition in this bookstore is called Classic of the Gods, a rather straightforward translation of the original Codex Seraphim. What exactly was the point of switching titles anyway? God knows if it's real or not. I myself can't even read the punctuation marks. We'll just keep it as an exhibition piece until we find a more reliable owner. Oh, too bad. Looks like you caught me. The young man smirks. Something seems off here. What exactly are you looking for? Naturally, it's something that isn't easy to find, but if you have strange editions like this one, you must have quite a collection of weird old books, right? Yeah, we're a bookstore. The privately owned bookstore. The privately owned bookstores or antique shops most of the time have some really interesting edition of books. I am still mad. Some years ago, I passed by an antique store and I saw that I had some editions of the very, very old German printing of the Utena manga. Utena? How would you say it in English? Utena? And I didn't... It was a Sunday, so the store was closed, but they had it that you could see it from the window. And to this day, I'm so mad I never tried to get back there and check it out, because honestly, I think these would count as books that you cannot get in any normal way anymore. And I'm still mad about it. Because I'm not paying €60 for like one singular book, but if you're interested in old books, I would recommend you go to the library. The public collection is much more reliable than the store, even if there are many school children busy with their homework there. It's okay. My intuition tells me that you won't let me down. He places the book back on the shelf and leans towards me. For example... Excuse me. I hate hiccups. For example, a recipe for drug passed down throughout the generations which causes strange hallucinations, something like that. Lately, not many people have come through the door who I could properly talk to. A dangerous group operating near the high school suddenly disappeared, and all the pieces I managed to put together suddenly vanished into thin air. Of course it's good for the students, but it feels like someone is trying to ruin my job. Is that so? So someone really did solve all that trouble at Phoenix High? To be honest, I didn't really notice anything. I have my eyes on you. I've noticed. Well, I don't have a problem with it if it all works out in the end, but catching us off guard is a different story. The group deserves to go to jail, but the police manhunt we started against them this past weekend was a bust. When we raided the scene, we discovered that they'd actually filled gas into the empty drink cans. Who do you think is to blame for that? His brows tightened forward, making it very hard to tell if he's just acting or actually getting angry. Trying to keep things from him doesn't seem to be working, but I can't let this guy in on everything. I stare back at him in a dignified manner. I'd love to listen to some more of your complaints, but would you mind introducing yourself first so poor me can keep up with the conversation? I'm a freelance detective. You can just call me Justin. I need to know, because I highly doubt it, but I need to know if all of the names are actually like the names in the original Chinese, or if that was like a localization change to make it easier. Because you're telling me some random kid, or I don't know, a freelance detective in his 20s is called Justin on mainland China? Or Celeste, or Eloise? As I said earlier, I'm responsible for investigating any incidents related to those drug dealers. A freelance detective? Since when have drug crimes been tied to private investigators? I It's better if you don't ask. The answer wouldn't be particularly groundbreaking anyway. This all sounds like a movie scenario. At the end of the day, the commissioner has to make a statement to the police even if he and his colleagues couldn't come up with anything. There's no escaping this misery. The whole thing is a mess, and honestly I'd love to get someone to share the blame for this. Hey, let's just stick to the facts. I don't know what happened over the past weekend. Really? If anyone reports that this place might be harboring informants for those guys. They were even in contact with a few students from Phoenix High School. The police already searched the houses, but I didn't have anything to do with that. Sounds like a stab in the dark. That's what I said. A man can only rely on his own abilities. My master taught me that, but my own principle is quite the opposite. I think it's a waste to let opportunities pass by just like that. Weirder things have happened than a Chinese man named Justin. Oh, for sure, it's just very funny to me. Like, at least they're not even, like, I don't think Eloise or Celeste would be that common English names either, so at least they were very creative in their names. Not to mention that the new task I was entrusted with is a bit of a bummer, but as a truly responsible detective, you have to learn to live with every resource you have, right? Even if this resource is forcefully obtained, I prefer methods of persuasion. You can always rely on so-called common sense. Some people just don't play by the rules. I've come to realize that while I was tracking down that group. How could I let such a powerful resource go when you scare those guys into running away in the middle of the night? What a statement. Don't be like that. I wouldn't have come to you if it wasn't important. He ignores my complaints and gets right to the point. In the last 2 weeks, there have been 3 murders in Mato, and they weren't reported in the news even once. You know what I mean? If there's something fishy going on, that's not something I need to be worrying about. True, by definition that's something professionals should be worrying about. Justin snaps his fingers as if he's been waiting to say this line. He's beaming with pride. But what if they're simply too busy to care? What did you say? The entire city's security forces are usually focused on one thing. To be blunt, nothing short of war could pull them out of their affairs right now. Did that recent international conference really need such tight security, for example? It wouldn't have needed them. Wouldn't have. Jeez, I get it. Now that I've realized I can't count on them at all with this, I came to the second most reliable source for help. I still don't quite understand why you're involved if it's a simple case of homicide. This may sound harsh, but you being a private detective and judging by the way your business is going, you asking for help doesn't seem surprising. There's no room for leniency with criminal cases, no guarantee of absolute safety, and I'd rather you spill the beans on what's going on here before this gets any worse. You're really good at risk management, aren't you? Don't give me that. At the end of the day, I just want to keep trouble as far away as possible. Yeah, you can see that this is a big problem that I can't just let go. The others have their hands full. I don't think they're in a good enough mood right now to be reasoned with. But I'm in a good mood to be reasoned with. I don't even know you! He's right, even if it's impractical. I'm afraid the detective has hit a dead end. He's desperate to find another way out. In other words, it would be impossible to try and get rid of him without having to pay a price. I've never seen a guy begging me for help with that kind of expression on his face before. You seem hell-bent on going down this path, even if it blows up in your face later. I don't care if you call me a scumbag. I don't think you're indifferent to innocent people dying, no matter what may have happened to you in the past. I don't know where you heard those rumors, but let's not talk about the past. So, have you made up your mind yet? Just give me the details. There's no need to waste any more time. Thank you for the hide time. Justin shrugs his shoulders and produces a file. So far, there have been 3 victims. The remains have already been examined and cremated, but I've managed to get my hands on the relevant records. According to the identification, the victims are a homeless person, a maintenance worker, and a business manager of a real estate company. Pretty different. Is there any link between the murders? The fatal injuries. The detective shows me some more photos. Scrapes, cuts, bruises. The victims' bodies were pretty disfigured by the time they were discovered. The killer cut into the necks with a cone-shaped murder weapon, digging into the aorta. This would have been lethal enough, but apparently they weren't satisfied with it. According to the forensic results, the victim's blood vessels were more dried up than they should have been. Organ failure due to rapid lack of oxygen produces different symptoms than death from blood loss. I'm not expert on this, but they suffered rather unique deaths. A lethal amount of blood removed through the aorta. Sounds like a bad joke. Thanks to that, the case is being referred to as the Vampire of Kangling District. Honestly, if they have enough time to come up with a name like that, they should be working a little harder. Do the victims have anything in common? Hard to tell. In terms of profession, they barely have anything in common, and their bodies were found far apart from each other. If it weren't for the fact that the cause of death was so surprising, not many people would have connected these cases at all. This is definitely a special case. Alright, you can search through whatever you like here, just don't mess up the pile of books over there. This is everything I could find so far. Anything more would be a sheer miracle. I take the bag of files he hands me and look through them one by one. The homeless man was buried in the riverbed of an abandoned park, and the maintenance worker was covered in a trash can. As for the business manager, it seems to have taken a lot of effort to piece her back together in between all the rubble of an abandoned building. Fortunately, the forensic pathologist who worked this case is very experienced. There was only little issue left, in fact, to find out what happened. Unfortunately, he was soon transferred back to headquarters. I'm afraid I couldn't do anything about that. The follow-up was mostly dumped on my boss, and while it's hard to criticize as a junior, I think he should have realized that something big was going on here. After that, the situation only got worse. Normally, there would be no need to ask for help in such a small matter, but since I'm doing all of this alone, of course I could manage on my own, but, well, you know, I'm running out of time. He still seems to be putting on a show, but he quickly restrains himself under my cold stare. To tell you the truth, all I can do right now is track the garbage collection points. I'm still trying to find out where exactly the maintenance worker's body was collected. Is that why there are only crime scene photos and forensic records? It's been put on hold for the sake of more important cases. They dump stuff like this on poor souls like me. I really can't believe they were forced to do that. Sounds like you're on good terms with those guys. What? I'm just a little sentimental. Forced to hire a detective to investigate a series of murders all on his own. It just makes me sympathetic towards the situation. That being said, the time frame is a real deal breaker. If you can't find any clues, we'd better get to the bottom of them within the week. Since we're short on manpower, it's all hands on deck. It sounds like he's already planning for me to step in, but I don't say anything. Any involvement in a case that has already been filled will probably involve the police sooner or later, and the last thing I want to see right now is the police. Although the guy in front of me seems intent on dragging me down with him, I can still handle the situation my way. Much like Scarlett's situation, this investigation can't go on forever. Spending a few days with Justin under such time pressure might lead him to look for another way to handle this. However, this theory is limited to cases that the police can handle. According to Justin, they were investigating the secrets around Phoenix High School when the incident occurred, but it's clear that they cannot be counted on in times of need. Moreover, Justin made it pretty clear that the police are aware of the fact that a certain group of people is trafficking lilac grass. They are aware of the dangers of the drug and were prepared to use force to get rid of the whole gang. I'm afraid I'm not the only one who knows what the real trouble with this drug is. If that's the reason why these murders were assigned to Justin, it's a sign that the police were unable to comprehend the nature of the drug. With modern technology, the methods of investigating regular homicides are obviously much better than mine. However, if something like a scaly silkworm is causing trouble, the police wouldn't be able to count on them even if they knew about the creature. A simple murder wouldn't require such a heavy hand, and the wounds didn't look as if they'd been inflicted by ordinary means. If it was an act of revenge, there would have been a connection between the three victims. So, were they killed randomly for the sake of pleasure? The methods were too consistent for that, unless the person isn't crazy, but extremely paranoid. In that case, paranoia could mean a lot of things. A strange belief or twisted creed. Either way, it raises a red flag for me. Besides, what it would take to make that kind of hole. A series of holes in the neck is thick and deep, but rough around the edges and much too harsh to have been caused by a sharp knife. Judging by the red swollen skin around the wound, it looks like a dog bite, if a dog could grow 10 cm long teeth. Not even taking into account Justin's annoying appearance, the situation is indeed bizarre, and the police situation he'd been ranting on about has attracted my interest even more. I wonder if Scarlett could help me a little with this. It's just like she said, the smaller the circle, the better connected everything is. The city has seen a lot of bizarre cases, and the police might be holding back some valuable information. It's time to sweeten the pot and gain some credibility. What I find the most interesting though is, random guy, private investigator, hired by the police, walks into bookstore, tells the guy who works at the bookstore, who by all means should just be a bookstore owner, hey, can you help me solve these murders? And BAM! Slaps a few files on our table. Wouldn't that be like classified files? Classified information? You're working with the police on murders that have not actually been released to the public either? Like the fact that they happened and you found out that they happened? Is that allowed? I understand. Anyway, let's investigate the crime scenes first. Field work? But didn't you mention earlier that I'm the only one who can move around freely at the moment? So, I can't just leave the store and walk around in town with you. Even if the killer were a turtle, by the time I checked all 3 places, he'd be long gone. You just need to investigate one place. That shouldn't be too hard. One place? Well, I don't know what you're up to, but I'll just have to take your word for it. Which location are you going for? The park, the residential area, or the abandoned building? Not a single one of them. Huh? It's time to think outside the box, my friend. It's better to consider another person's thoughts than to follow their footprints. But how do you find out what someone else is thinking? You're a freelance detective, right? Yes. As such, it's normal that you don't have a lot of experience with this kind of thing. After all, this kind of trouble isn't a daily occurrence. The police won't be happy to have an outsider help with a murder case, so let's not mention it to anyone. It would just embarrass them. You're ruthless. I'm guessing you haven't dealt with this kind of scenario before? There are many ways to hide a body, and coincidentally, almost all criminals who want to do so think about it carefully. It's not surprising when you think about it. It's never been easy to hide a body, except maybe during times of war, and whoever is doing this wants to stay under the radar. The usual suspect will always hide a body in the most fitting place he can find. In fact, the police often have it way harder than it is described in crime novels. Do you have any details about the crime scenes? I cleared the desk and helped Justin lay out the photos and maps he prepared. Let's take a look at the homeless man first. The remains of the homeless man were found in a riverside park. The park has been in a state of neglect for years. He wouldn't have been discovered if a morning runner hadn't made a detour that day. That's what it says here. Yes, the detectives who visited the scene told me that the body was trapped in the mud on a riverbank, wrapped in a plastic sheet. At first they thought it was just an oddly shaped root. So the murder was successful at hiding the body, just not very lucky. Honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if the body had rotted away long before it was found. Then there's Mr. Louis, the maintenance worker. A garbage collection station reported the discovery of the body and, after backtracking the schedule, successfully identified the vehicle that collected the waste and the location at which it was located. According to the staff member's statement, the body was in a huge bag and wrapped in a blanket. That's why it wasn't immediately spotted on the scene. Justin had written this down on the side of the photo. It was just one step away from disappearing into a landfill, never to be seen again. The average citizen wouldn't be aware of the state of the city's maintenance work. Even so, the decision to dump the body in a landfill was reckless. Wouldn't that be the perfect hiding spot? They definitely tried hard to disguise it. You can see from the photographs alone that the package was extraordinarily tightly bound. Although it contained the body of a sturdy worker, it was the size of a suitcase. The outside of the bag is tightly wrapped with duct tape, and the blood is oozing through the cotton-filled inner layer. This really is extremely creepy. A person who abandoned a body in a panic would not have made such exquisite preparations. They must have been thoroughly prepared. Last but not least, we have Mrs. Young, who worked for Rising Sun Properties. The couple who discovered the body was scared out of their wits. For the sake of decency, let's not go into detail about why they went to that abandoned building in the middle of the night, but it obviously didn't go the way they'd planned. The body was wrapped in a plastic bag and discarded in a pile of building materials. The blood trail didn't go very far due to street cleaning and road maintenance. The scene was quite gruesome, but the perpetrator managed to bypass the CCTV. The area is somewhat disconnected from the rest of the city. After all, nobody wants to clean up the mess of a financial dispute. Regardless, the criminal was intent on hiding the body, but the method of execution was much rougher this time around. Given the peculiar fatal injuries in this series of cases, it is highly unlikely that there were multiple perpetrators. In other words, the killer is growing impatient and isn't planning as carefully anymore. Even if they are psychologically sound, taking so many lives in a row would leave a mark on them. In that case, what would be your highest priority if you were disposing of multiple bodies? Take them as far away from me as possible? Bingo. At least you're somewhat smart. choosing different directions to make them appear as different as possible. If you think about it like that. So that's your guess? Thinking outside the box was a success, so we can now move on to the next stage. I wouldn't hold it against you if you said that I'm out of my mind. After all, I don't have enough evidence, and there are plenty of possibilities to disprove my theory. Except, in this case, I have a good enough reason to take a chance. The 3 marked points form a triangle. Look at this enclosed area in the middle. That's the reason why I went to so much trouble. I'm talking about the Kangen district. Taking a closer look, it's almost exactly in the center of the marked points. This place was mentioned in the news yesterday. A real estate company employee was murdered, and the construction going on in the building at the time immediately came to a halt. How could this not be related? Indeed, the Newford Water Conservancy is also close to the Kangen neighborhood. Anything Rising Sun Properties, where Miss Young used to work, also had contracts for buildings under construction in that part of town. This seems pretty suspicious. The real scene of the crime. After all, the fatal wounds probably have nothing to do with where these people were found. Neither the river nor the garbage heap would be a place to carry out these processes. As for the homeless man, it's impossible to trace him, though I can't stop you from trying to find out more about him. Justin smiles bitterly. Even I can't do that. You do have a point, though. I'll go to the neighborhood right away and check it out. Detective places the files on her desk, folds up the map, and tucks it under his arm. Why are you in such a hurry? I'd rather collect some more information first. We don't know anything about the place yet. You know we don't have much time. I'll just go and have a quick look around. And let's be honest, although I was forced to come to you for help, the crime scene photos were a crucial element. His eyes are locked on the door, and his words are filled with suppressed emotion. For a brief moment, Justin clenches his fist and his knuckles go white. I might just be a private investigator, but I can't let this murderer keep on doing whatever he wants. I see you're quite a professional. It has nothing to do with professionalism. The detective turns around with a stony smile on his face. This time his expression looks absolutely sincere. As a human being, I just think that some things can't be forgiven. And with that, Justin leaves. Without an umbrella. Without either of us noticing, the sun outside the door has been blocked out by dark clouds. Aww. I have nothing... No, nothing else. Okay. Huh. Well, whatever he is, our main character definitely is not just a normal bookstore owner, that's for sure. Also, he is bound by this place? What the fuck's that supposed to mean? Since Justin left, an all-encompassing silence has fallen over the store, almost as if it were happy to have a moment of quiet all to itself. Even the birds outside have gone quiet, not causing a commotion while fighting over seats for once. Usually there are a few stray cats that wander around the place, but I haven't seen any since last weekend. Maybe animals are somehow sensitive to the silkworm's lingering scent? Avoiding such a dangerous predator is only natural as far as animal hierarchy is concerned. I put down the delivered books and rub my eyes. It's pretty heavy stuff and hard to focus on. The text is wordy to an almost pretentious degree, and it makes my head hurt. This is going to be a pain. Oh, I hate when that happens. I actually have a book I've been reading on and off for a few months, though the last few months I actually haven't touched it again. It's generally fascinating. I managed to get through the first third of it. But it's written a very hard way. It's a high fantasy book. It's a high fantasy, so the entire setting of the book is like, okay, here's the world, here's how the world happens, and this is one continent, and this is another continent, all each with their own fantasy names. And then this is Countess blah 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 from blah blah blah, and this is her estranged cousin Henenuf from blah blah blah, and the current lord residing over the place is this and that, and also is planning on assassinating this and that person. You're just like, what? Because every single person in this fucking book has like 7 names, and then the point of view you follow also changes between 3 main characters. So in one chapter you actually have like 5 different changes, because it will be like, oh, we follow character 2, then we jump to character 3, then we go back to 1, then we go back to 2, then we go back to 1 again, then we go back to 3, and you're like, what the hell is going on? It's a great book, but it's I really need to concentrate on it, so I haven't really gotten anywhere with it lately. And it has 800 pages, and I want to finish reading it this year, I swear to God. An old colleague of mine who studied Eastern European parochial religions once shared an unsettling story with me. A priest who accidentally came into contact with an unidentified dark book could no longer sleep at night after he gazed at its pages for too long. Ultimately, he begged one of his brothers to blind him so he would never have to lay eyes on a cursed piece of literature ever again. That particular religious order died out eventually. The more secretive something is, the more it will root itself in the hearts and minds of those intrigued by its forbidden allure. Then there will always be somebody to fight it, trying to banish it, but that only ever leads to repeating the same mistakes. That particular story serves as a warning to let certain matters rest and to honor old traditions. Some things are not meant to be tampered with. At the time, I pretty much viewed it as a joke. Who would have thought that I'd actually end up in a situation like that myself? The sheer absurdity of it all makes me chuckle. Suddenly I hear someone walking down the stairs. A moment later, Nico's head appears in a corner of the store. Hey, where's water? I'm thirsty. The kettle's on the second floor. You can go and boil some yourself. But the door's locked. It's okay. You can go inside. But your computer's up there. Are you sure you feel comfortable with me in the same room as it? It's fine. I'll give you the key. Well, I bet there's nothing juicy or interesting on it anyway. There's an entire thread about the myth of Cthulhu if you want to read that. No harm done. I know how feisty Neko can be. Sometimes I wonder how she managed to survive in the orphanage without anyone jumping at her throat though. Neko ignores my expression and raises an eyebrow. She playfully takes the key out of my hands and sits down on the counter. Great speech you gave there. No need for fake flattery. People can't do everything at once. That's why it's necessary to plan out the scope of each operation first. How could anyone ignore the detailed road structures like that and simply draw a circle right across the map? I just made some wild guesses and went along with it to coax him into running an errand. I'm not responsible anyway, so even if I'm wrong, I'm not the one to blame, but... Hold on, you heard everything from all the way up there? Nah, I was outside. I heard the commotion and chose to wait. I'd rather leave you fools to yourselves, you know? Nico shakes her head and looks a little angry. Not exactly the nicest thing you've ever said. However, I do agree with you. Oh, you mean about the Kangnian district? It's true that there was an employee charged with handling complaints in the area in which Rising Sun Properties operates. His schedule's been empty ever since, no more work for him. As for Rising Sun Properties, the company's been doing house demolitions and relocation work for a few years now. It hasn't completely taken over the Kangnian district yet, but I bet that's what they're planning to do. Do you know if companies like that sometimes require the employees to do some fieldwork in person? They definitely need to go there to talk to residents about compensation for the demolition. They also need staff to ensure the exclusion of the homes that refuse to make way. Do their managers need to go in person too? Only if necessary, I think. To be honest, I'm not familiar enough with the real estate business to be sure. Anyway, one of Rising Sun's managers, Mrs. Young, was absent for a very long time and she was responsible for a particular project. I thought that might interest you. That's pretty suspicious. If you can get Justin to tell me the victim's full name, we can look into it some more. Could take a while though, he's definitely got his hands full. Anyway, how did you even get all this information? Huh? Ever heard of etiquette? Do you always ask girls about their secrets? Let me take a wild guess, Scarlett's teachings? Let me just say that even in big cities, cybersecurity at most companies is a joke. Nico stretches and smirks a little, knowing full well how vague her answer sounds. Alright, whatever. As long as the cops don't come knocking because of you. So what's your conclusion? I don't have one yet. At least not until I hear back from Justin. But since it all happened recently, I'd say it's important to check out the area as soon as possible while everything's still fresh. Woo! Now that sounds interesting. I know I'm not a professional either, but at least I'm a little more experienced than he is. I know, you're the teacher, the master, the only one capable of it. Hey, don't make me sound like a show-off, okay? But isn't showing off exactly what you're doing by saying something like that in the first place? I see you as witty as ever, and still as good at talking to people as always. Nico sighs softly, stands up and stares straight into my eyes. Are you sure you don't want to get out? Huh? Out of this bookstore? I mean, there are other things you'd enjoy apart from being here, right? It's not like I have a real choice. I didn't choose trouble, it chose me. I reach out and pat Nico's hand. Trust me, this is the safest place for me to stay for now, until Scarlett finds a way to clear my name. Clear your name? Why? Scarlett, huh? Hey, I bet I can help out too. I have a feeling your kind of help will land me in jail. And this place isn't really what you're used to. It's not exactly a high-tech den. You'd need better equipment. It's fine. I could just go to an internet cafe. And who's going to keep you safe? I'm no fool. I know you could never keep yourself out of trouble. Not back then and not today. The people who took in Nico weren't the nicest, that much is true, but they recognized her talent and provided her with all kinds of electronics. Even if she could get by in a more humble environment such as Hermitage, it would mean that she could never go back. Why is she here anyway? I still don't know what drove her to come here in the first place, at least not the true reason. It feels odd, like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle. No. Are you okay? You have a strange look on your face. Don't worry, it's nothing. I need to trust people more. In this case, I know I can. Though Scarlet seems stern and withdrawn sometimes, I know I can always rely on her. If you really want to help me, why don't you help me dig a little deeper into these case files? It seems like we're about to hit a dead end with what we have, but it's worth a shot. How about it? Awesome. So what exactly are we looking for? I need some more information about those two people we mentioned earlier. Personal history, how long they've been working at the companies, their business activities, and if they do have a connection to the Kanglian district, I would like to know if they have a connection to that specific building too. Okay, I'll keep you posted. I'll update you if I find something. Oh, you already have a plan? Just sit down, lean back, relax, and watch me do my magic. Nico pounds her chest like a gorilla or semi-drunk factory worker right before a brawl, then steps outside, obviously highly motivated. Let the pros do what they do best. A valid principle that applies to every job in existence. She's shown what she's capable of more than once, so I'm more than confident in her abilities. I casually clean out the ashtray, making room for a new cigarette. Well, nothing to do now but wait. Let's see what comes up. Don't get yourself into too much trouble, Nico. Ah, yeah, trouble is my middle name. Ooh. Okay, gotta admit, first glance at the background CG actually made me think of Dramatical Murder again. I don't fucking know why that's the first one that came to mind. I'd have to compare the CGs and see why. Jeez, what's that store manager's story? Although I did get some information about him, I don't know anything about his past. But right now it's time to focus on more important things. Justin puts away his cell phone and neatly readjusts his collar. The Kanglian district is pretty deserted as expected. It's nearly impossible to get anyone's attention as most of the residents here don't want to be bothered by outsiders. The term neighborhood is too kind of a description, taking into account the dark atmosphere and general feeling of being unwelcome. You wouldn't expect a place like this to exist in a big city nowadays. It's almost like an urban fairy tale. Electrical wires are hanging loosely overhead, connecting the various buildings. They look almost like bridges. Many of the buildings look like they need some work done, and overall the whole architecture of the place seems improvised. When you look at these intimidating blocks of concrete, you can easily picture how little space the people living in here have and how cramped it must be inside. Because of the once over-enthusiastic private construction companies, there are way too many buildings stuffed into this one small urban area. They crisscross like ant nests. Once you leave the main road, the path immediately becomes more narrow, allowing only 2 or 3 people to walk next to each other. This is another world. Justin stands at the doorstep to the unknown and can't shake the strange feeling this place is giving him. Coming from the big city, from outside, he could never fit in or be accepted by the residents here. They're basically like 2 different species, completely unable to understand one another. Aha! But you don't get an actual sprite, so you are not important. As he enters the neighborhood, Justin sees several people walking by dressed in very plain everyday clothes. By the way they move around and act, you can tell that they are used to how things are around here, as if they've never known any other place but this narrow and chaotic concrete maze. A vague sound is coming from somewhere above, probably a television or somebody on their phone. All in all, even with so many people, the place seems lonely. Many voices and a lot of chatter can be heard, but they all seem to be phone calls. There's very little social interaction and everyone is minding their own business. There seem to be a lot of elderly people around and some young people who look like immigrant workers. The detective makes a quick mental note of every resident passing by him, remembering their appearance. He has seen a similar situation in another city before. Village's land was transformed into an urban construction zone. Cheap, affordable housing was built and the elderly from around the area moved in, while the younger generation moved somewhere else. No matter where, these places are always the same. Bustling, dilapidated, and they attract people with a low income. And slowly but surely, they turn into hives. Compared to the almost decadent and peaceful atmosphere elsewhere, this place is dark and gloomy. The detective silently soaks in the atmosphere around him, trying to find out why. It's almost too quiet. Living in a big city can be tough, but still, people make do with it. And most importantly, they still talk to each other. You hear those who struggle financially or otherwise loudly complain about the current situation, trying to be heard. But here it's dead silent. Nobody's talking to each other, even after basically rubbing shoulders with their neighbors while walking up the stairs. It's unsettling. Even if you're on edge because of big city troubles and all kinds of problems that come with trying to survive in an urban environment on your own, you still shouldn't be so out of touch with your surroundings. As a highly sociable person, Justin feels very uncomfortable around here. Well, that sounds like a personal problem. Justin tries to stop a person passing by in order to make some inquiries, but he's completely ignored. Damn. Feeling more and more uneasy, Justin decides to change his approach. Time to give up on trying to make contact. He opens the map on his phone again. He needs more information. The neighborhood council seems like a good source for that. It's odd, but residents' council still need to make announcements to the people living in the area and pass on important information given out by the government. That's the law, and it applies even in an isolated place like this. It doesn't really take much effort. Making his way through the urban desolation with the help of his phone's GPS, Justin quickly arrives at the courtyard, his eyes gazing upon the buildings he was looking for. This may very well be the only building in the neighborhood that is still being maintained, at least somewhat. The 3-story administrative building is surrounded by some free space in a courtyard. The building would have never attracted attention anywhere else, but in this place it sticks out like a sore thumb. The door's open, maybe because it's during office hours. There's no one in the foyer or in the central courtyard, so Justin takes a look around. Long glass cabinets stand on one side of the corridor, filled with various announcements and official documents. No matter how chaotic and dilapidated everything here seems, his hunch was right, and at least this part of the institution is still working. Quite neat. There are 4 notification boards for the residents of the area, and it seems like the notes are put up in order of their importance. Justin approaches the least recent notes and starts looking for information. An anti-drug notice, a fire inspection notice, a food safety inspection notice. These notes even make mentions of plans to implement ID checks during these inspections. Curiously enough, none of these notes have any times or dates on them. Are they even being followed through? It's like a school teacher announcing a big trip in the spring, but without mentioning the exact date. Things like that only confuse people and cause uncertainty. There are only 2 possible reasons for issuing notifications like this. Whoever published these notices never really intended for the news to get out, or they didn't expect anyone to check it out in the first place. Justin has investigated in a shady, low-rent housing district before. In such a place, doing identity checks and questioning people isn't exactly easy, and the residents are far from talkative and welcoming. People here want to remain anonymous, so even if they've got nothing to hide, they don't want to be bothered by anyone. It's quite possible that the landlords and property managers just collect their rent and then look the other way, postponing important inspections, having them done only on paper. Pretty sloppy work though. Justin moves away from the notices and the glass cabinets in order to look for more meaningful information. Please, just a moment, believe me. What the? Just go. Huh? People can be heard arguing faintly through the windows above. It's not extremely loud, but it still sounds quite intense. The sound is coming from the office on the upper floor close to the stairs. Walking straight up would cause too much suspicion, so Justin quietly positions himself down by the stairs right beneath the commotion. Now he can hear the quarrel more clearly. Please reconsider. This could be a good thing for everyone. The compensation we're offering for each square meter is way above average. Think about it. In a couple of years you'll be able to get a brand new house for that price. Are you serious right now? Hey now, don't act as if we're taking advantage of you. Years. Look at how old we are. Do you really think we still have those couple of years you're talking about? Please calm down. If you had the choice of living in a better place, your family would want that for you, wouldn't they? What the? Are you implying that my family would toss aside their parents for a few square meters of living space? Well, of course not. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm sorry, that's it. I knew I wouldn't get through to people like you who are only ever out for the money. Let's go. The conversations are abruptly cut off and angry footsteps are coming closer. Justin positions himself in an inconspicuous way that makes it seem like he just entered the building. A group of angry old men appear on the stairs. There are a total of 6 people, most likely in their mid-50s, dressed like retirees from the big city. The group leaves angrily, venting their frustration quite audibly as they leave the building. An office door opens and closes again upstairs. No way. Justin hears a younger voice sighing behind his back. The man had walked down the stairs just as the elderly people left. His shirt looks messy, and he seems like a newly employed salesman who is way in over his head. Doesn't seem like an easy job. Tough clientele, huh? I was prepared for it being a little difficult, but you're just too stubborn. And you are? Judging by the commotion, you've got your work cut out for you. I assume you work in real estate? I feel your pain. The salesman smiles a little, happy to finally be talking to a reasonable and understanding person once again. His eyes light up a tiny bit. It can be really tough here. People scold you just for trying to do your job. Say, does your company do business with the people around here too? We just sell surveillance and security equipment, cameras and motion sensors, stuff like that. Not whole houses like you. That's a whole other league right there. The boss sent me here to get some potential clients and make some deals, but doesn't look like it's gonna go all too well. Buddy, I really don't mean to scare you off, okay? But between you and me, I think there's something wrong with the people here. Huh? What do you mean? These people aren't interested in talking in the first place. Those old guys always steer the conversation in a direction that paints you as a bad guy and then leave. They throw fits and storm out. They can't be reasoned with. That was the 5th time that happened today. Usually this place is very active business-wise. A colleague of mine used to do the job I'm doing now. I'm her replacement, but I really don't think she did something to upset the people to such a degree. So why did you have to replace her? I don't really know the details. Seems like she suddenly asked for a long vacation. That's what my boss told me anyway. Before that, she complained to me several times that the residents here were unreasonable. At first I was happy, thinking I'd just have to organize the desk a little and that business would run on autopilot, but now I gotta chase after these clients. So these people have always been here. Yeah, at the very least since I took over. I'm sorry, man. Looks like you really drew the short straw. If the situation hasn't improved by the end of the month, we'll probably have to switch to different methods of handling business. The salesman quickly covers his mouth as if he said something he shouldn't have. It's easy for Justin to spot how little working experience this man has. I understand. Seems like I won't have it easy. You can say that again. You should still give it a try. Just don't get your hopes up. Justin has managed to gain the salesman's trust with his act. The man crumples a housing brochure together and throws it in a trash can, accompanied by a defeated sigh. He pats Justin on the shoulder and makes his way back up to his office. Justin focuses his attention on the trash can. Nearly a dozen leaflets are strewn around inside it. They've probably been there for quite some time. Most of them are crumpled up into unrecognizable balls of paper. Some are discolored by rain and are hard to read. Justin squats down and takes a closer look at the few leaflets in better condition. All the leaflets are always about different office. The logo on top is always the same. A simplified image of tall buildings and the company name Rising Sun Properties. So Miss Young's probably had some business here. The leads are slowly taking shape. It's unwise to linger around and attract attention. Quite a few people are working on the upper floor, and getting noticed could cause a lot of trouble. Justin thinks about telling the salesman the truth about his colleague's vacation, but decides against it in the end. He quietly picks up a leaflet and stuffs it into his pocket before he leaves. Okay. I find this entire process of relocating people so interesting. Granted, I've not moved many times in my life before, but I've never heard of the whole thing being like, hey, we want to build new housing areas around here, like more up-to-date ones, better ones that also are gonna cost more. And we're going to ask the people who are currently living here to move to other places, and we're going to give them a little bit of money for it to entice them to move to a different area. I don't know if that's a common thing here as well. I've never heard of it. It's like, hey, we're going to raise this place to the ground and make it cooler, but also more expensive. So you people who are currently living here have to go. Here's a little bit of money. Go now. Like, what? Oh, yay. Stumble across something interesting. You should compare it with the information from the forum you're always on. That'll take forever. You're overreacting. There aren't that many old posts to sift through. Come on, just check it out. There aren't that many old posts? Are you kidding me? Well, Nico, did you read through the entire Cthulhu post, huh? Did you? You know what, we're gonna start off with that one, because this should just be a few... No, this is a completely different post about Cthulhu, never mind. I've seen this novel in the store before. There's an old first edition magazine by that particular author in the store. Now this becomes so popular, I should buy the next print edition immediately and sell it for a nice profit. That's also an interesting thing. Here, books... you cannot sell a book here for a higher price than what... There's a specific price books need to be sold for. Even a private bookstore... Oh. Okay, to be fair, I do not know about private bookstores. But, like privately owned bookstores. But chain bookstores, they're not allowed to sell you a bookstore at a higher cost. Like, there's one specific price that gets set for a book, and that's the price it needs to go for. They are bound by some kind of law, some kind of rule for that. Which is very interesting, because that kind of law doesn't seem to exist everywhere. It exists here in Germany, for sure, where it's like, okay, this book, once it comes out of print, will cost, I don't fucking know, 14 euros, and that is the price. You're not allowed to sell it for a higher price. So no matter where you would go, you will have to pay the same price for the book, which is honestly a good thing. So that means no one can rip you off with pricing the book for higher than it should go for. On the other hand, it's like, okay, here's a special edition of the book that's just come out and you want it, well, you have to pay the full price for it. The super book price law, yeah! The new edition of the Cthulhu Myth. There's a new edition of the Cthulhu Myth. I don't think it needs a big introduction. It's classic stuff, and by now everyone should be at least somewhat familiar with the mythology behind it. Yeah. I won't get into spoiler territory. Newcomers should approach this without having any background info beforehand. After all, it's the mystery and uncertainty that attracts people to these works. This is all the original stuff. Other authors whose works are based on it messed up by introducing clear concepts of good and evil that completely go against Lovecraft's intentions. Alright, run over, let's talk about something else. I don't know what it is, if the Lovecraft stories are just too much ahead of the time or if society is too slow to evolve. Some things in there are a product of the time, but other than that, you wouldn't even realize this is from the 1920s. It's still as fresh as ever. At its core, it obviously remains a horror story. It's usually a cliché-laden genre. There's always some scary monsters that's clearly shown and named, and some arbitrary reason for its existence is shoved in, and then the main character kills it, or the other way around. Yay, creative. Also, the baddies show up way too frequently. That takes away so much of the suspense. Many authors deem that necessary in long novels. It's gotta be dangled in front of the reader every now and then to maintain interest and suspense. At least they tell themselves that. But Cthulhu fiction is brilliant because it doesn't follow the rules. The stories are usually very short, which already increases the suspense. The real evil often lurks in the shadows while the protagonists are faced with its henchmen. Many things remain obscured, allowing your imagination to run wild. Characters are disposable. They can all die just like that. And that, my friends, is the true essence of horror fiction to me. Of course, book sales are a factor, so even a genius such as Lovecraft had to make certain compromises. Can't blame him though, can we? I mean, if the main character dies in every story, then things just become predictable. Also, it is said that the odds of drawing SSR by posting about the book are pretty high. Spread the word with a little faith we can pull this off. What kind of SSRs? What kind of gacha are we talking about now? So which stories does it include? After the SAN value reaches a certain value, you'll be able to draw SSR 10 times. What? Why are we talking about... What? Dude, $32 makes me feel like an idiot for pre-ordering for 48. Ooh. 48 for one book? Excuse me. The Call of Cthulhu, Whisper in Darkness from Beyond, from Beyond, the Tomb, the Hound, Dragon, the Cast of Uta, the Dunwich Horror. Well, they say sales are going well, so they'll probably sell out. If it's possible to buy by invoice, I'd love to get my hands on it for research purposes. The whole cover style is unfitting right down to the font choice. I don't think it's going to be that popular with the hardcore fans. Looks like it was made to draw on the casuals. It's just a sleeve cover, bro. Take it off if it bothers you so much, lol. You bought a $200 book? Wow. May I ask what kind of book that was? Because that is a lot of money for one book. I checked out an advanced copy. The artwork's pretty cool, actually. I give it a 7 out of 10 if you ask me. The translation's another story. It's pretty bad in some places. It's putting it kindly. The translation sucks. Multiple errors on the first page already. Says the game with a bunch of grammatical errors. That hurts. That hurts a little. The translator's done quite a few fantasy novels before. I've read them all and always liked them. Just received it. Gotta say the cover really isn't great. I took up the sleeve ASAP. There's a cool metal emblem on it. Looks nice, but I wouldn't carry it around in a bag. Seems as if it could break off easily. The paper could be thicker in my opinion, but otherwise it's fine. It's pretty cool that they made the pages look like old parchment. I'm sure the material's the reason for the heftier price. I don't know what the translation's like since I haven't read it yet. I hope it's better than the old version. A limited edition 9th edition Warhammer 40k core book. Okay, I understand. Everything I've ever seen of Warhammer, official Warhammer stuff, has ridiculous prices. So I'm not surprised that a limited edition of such a book would be expensive as hell. I actually pooled some money with friends so we could also gift a friend who is into Warhammer and who also paints their own figurine is the wrong word, but like the tiny guys, right? Themselves. We pulled together to get them some materials for that and also some bases. It was 5 of us pooling money together because holy shit, official Warhammer stuff. Wow. I already have enough hobbies that cost me more money than I should be spending on them, not gonna lie. But alright. Let's read this one. 30 members of a Thai soccer team disappear after entering a cave. A tragedy in Thailand. A German newspaper reports that 12 young soccer players and their coach have disappeared after entering a cave. Their whereabouts are still unknown and the police are using drones and underwater robots to search for them. However, nobody knows why the team entered the cave in the first place. According to some reports, the coach apparently led the players into a hole where they got trapped and lost contact with the outside world due to flooding caused by sudden heavy rainfall. They are reportedly between the ages 13 and 16 and the coach is 25 years old. Searchers found their shoes and bicycles at the entrance of the cave and also found their backpacks inside the cave passages. The water level has reportedly risen to 7 meters since the sudden rainfall on Tuesday morning. The search and rescue team said it has contacted the National Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Agency, police, the army, and further departments to conduct a joint rescue mission with hundreds of people participating in it. As of now, the search has expanded to a 6-kilometer radius, while the entire length of the cave is around 10 kilometers. As for the condition of the missing person's life, doctors say they still have a chance of surviving. People can go long periods of time without food, and there's enough water in the cave for them to drink, the doctors say, but the biggest concern is the humidity in the cave, which could trigger pneumonia. Officials have expressed a deep concern and promised to do everything in their power to aid in the rescue. The families of the missing children have set up tents at the entrance to the cave and are anxiously waiting to hear from the children. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, the prices are... Also, what I find a little upsetting is how apparently if you play, you're only allowed to use the original ones. The original figures. And like with the advancement in 3D printing, one could easily print their own models that look the exact same I mean, it's not like the models actually do anything. It's just the figure you put down, right? They don't do anything. They're just pieces of plastic. But no, you can only use the very official ones that get sold for ridiculous. I don't actually have the prices, like off the top of my head, but like ridiculous prices. Like, really? I could get a 3D printer. Like, I could invest in a 3D printer and print them myself probably, and then paint them. Like, You bought a few books to teach yourself about politics. Oh, never bought a fantasy or fiction double. Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, most books I buy are just like manga and light novels. So those are generally less expensive than I don't know, a hardcover, full-bound book, no matter what kind of genre or topic. The more expensive ones the German ones tend to be like around, I think we're slowly approaching like €8 for a singular one, and then like bigger printed versions cost 10, but still that's €10 for one book. And then wait, what do I have anything close to me right now? Hold on. I bought The House in the Cerulean Sea recently, the English version, because I finally found an English version. And it says on the back here, £8.99. Which I think is a nice price. This book has 400 pages. With the acknowledgements at the end, it has exactly 400 pages. So £8.99, let's say that's around, I don't know, 10 euros, something along those lines. Like, that's alright. It's a 400-page book, right? Funnily enough, I bought another book. No, that's not the one I meant. There's another book I bought that has less pages and cost me more. Even though they're both like just these soft cover books, right? Because I don't buy hardcover books anymore because they're hard to read. Like, trying to open them up and actually holding them for hours on end. And I do not like to break the spine of a book. So I try not to. Like, they look nice if you put them up for display, but they're hard to read. You can lose points in the new edition for not painting your models. What? That's insane! That's insane! What the heck? Okay. I mean, a friend has painted one of their figurines in my colors. So technically they have a newer Warhammer model. I don't know which exact thing that is supposed to be. Hold on. Let me look at now. Now, if only I could remember people's. Nope. There we go. I wrote it wrong. That's why. Hold up. I will find it. This one. Nualdo of something. It's this one here. Brother Nu of the Starlight Paladins, which is really cute. It's a pink guy. Has a skull on his right arm. So it's a paladin, I'm guessing. It's really cute. But yeah. I don't know. I already have with my main hobbies being books. Well, manga and books, though I'm reading a lot more traditional books recently. And games, I already have enough that I can spend money on. Then I'm also kind of interested in Lolita fashion, which is one of the most expensive things there is out there. I do have a few figurines, do have a few figurines. I actually own one of the banana fish figurine. Not the ones where they're in tuxedos, but the ones where Ash is sitting on the wall and Age is standing next to him. And that one, you know, I bought it when it was released, and it already cost over 100 when it was released. I think it was during the time when I was still living at home, so I could spend my hard-earned money on that without having to worry about rent. That thing, even if you look on eBay, this figurine goes for 600 and upwards. That's an entire month of rent for one figurine. Like, excuse me? Excuse me? Excuse me? Yes, honestly, it's crazy. So I do not want any more hobbies that I could spend money on. It's really bad. So what you look like when you're mad? Yeah, when I'm mad, I change my class to Paladin. Nandos are your max. Yeah. Nandroids I also buy. Pretty often. Because Nandroids is like, okay, you know what, I have, I don't know, 30 to 40 euros. I can spend those, that's alright. Remember the good old days of living with parent, good times, money. I feel it. My mom's always like, oh, are you getting through the month? Is that okay? You know, you really didn't have to move out, but it's like, You say that now that I've moved out and, you know, we're not around each other every single day, but... But yeah, sure, it would be nice. Money would be nice. Holy hell, 10 kilometers of caves and then the flood. This sounds pretty bad. There's a movie called The Cave. It's about an expedition that goes wrong and the cave is flooded by heavy rain. Which movie is the one with those ghouls in a cave again? The Descent? Update. The young soccer players trapped in a cave were recovered by search and rescue personnel. All of them survived. They're still weak because they haven't eaten for several days. Medical personnel at the scene and also accompanied the divers to give initial treatment. Surprisingly, they were found and all of them are still alive. Great news. That is surprising, actually. In a 10-kilometer deep cave? Jesus. What's this one? Would this technique be so popular if the sword animation didn't look as good? The best way to beat an enemy is to throw your sword. It's pretty silly. Would this technique be so popular if the sword animation didn't look as good? It's getting more and more popular to use a move in a game, isn't it? If the SAN value reaches a certain... What? Reaches a certain value, you'll be able to draw SS art in there. What game are these people talking about? Also, what's an SAN? The movie's great, what are you complaining about? There's no way to play the game exactly like the fight scenes in the anime. Where are the special effects? There are no rules and there's no way to tell which type of saber you have. The best way to beat an enemy is to roll, spin constantly and fling a sword around. On second thought, I decided to fight the Scarface Execution and the Shambu Swordsman again. Who's going to read this name? I am. Mister, I have a very small username. I am going to read your name. Cyril's sword style is more Sicily's rather than Jericho's quick and short range. His sword technique is a good way to increase power. Hobby money sub. Thank you for the sub. I hope you enjoy the emotes. What are you talking about? He can actually throw his sword. Well, you could do that, but wouldn't you feel like an idiot if you performed a heavy hit and used up your whole EX bar? In all seriousness, everyone's bragging about how good their attacks look, but the execution isn't the best and performance isn't up to par either. I like that we're not getting any confirmation, any information as to what exactly this is referring to, but alright. I really feel like we're just going on Reddit and hitting the random subreddit thing and then just reading one of the more popular ones. Topics. What's the deal with chicken box? Again? Wait, there's an update to the chicken box one? I think Chicken Box really needs to work on its articles, at least on the headlines. Nostalgia, what do I talk about when I'm on the phone? Lose Second Life, what do we talk about when we talk about paintings? Nothing more to say. What exactly do we talk about when we talk about film critics? Talking industry, when you talk about indie games, what are we talking about? Movie talk, what do I see when I watch a zombie movie? It's the same with all these why headlines. Lose Second Life, why do I love Son of Monsters? Why I love everything about Prey? Why should I go see a licensed anime? Why I love Cyberpunk so much? I'd be ashamed to look back on these books. Why do I love Hatsune Miku so much? Based. Hatsune Miku based. Is there anyone else who gets triggered by these what we talk about when we talk about XXX headlines? Always the same shitty synopsis title. It's almost like they have a rule for the lousy titles. Hey, this one feels like an actual post. It even uses triggered. Yep. The American writer Raymond Carver first introduced the phrase what we talk about when we talk about love, so that's probably based on that. The author admitted to being depressed, you know. There are only two kinds of headlines that people actually read. The first is a shocking headline, something about death, sex, crisis, and so on, and is very colorful. The second is a fancy headline that Chickenbox is clearly going for. Lots of people click on an article if they have fancy intellectual titles. Do they? Who's the better detective, Kobayashi Masayuki or Fei Donmu? These two are well-known detective characters in China, and it just so happens that there's a spin-off in which they work together. The two of them are probably equally good at solving crimes, but Fei Donmu seems to me more popular with the ladies. What do you think? I'm not very familiar with them, but I'll check them out sometime. I don't think either of them could be Kogoro Mori when it comes to looks. A real detective.jpg. That's true, there aren't many detectives as attractive as Kogoro Mori. Don't forget about Fei Donmu's girl, Yuan Lu. I can't play detective ADVs. I don't have enough brains. Me. We still haven't answered the original question. Why don't we have 10 people from each development team compete over which character is the best detective? Because that's annoying. TRPG rulebook, the Trail of Cthulhu crowdfunding shipped. Our crowdfunding campaign is ended with 290k funding and a total of 619 backers. Far more than I expected. Thank you for your support. This is the same guy who wrote the super long thread about Cthulhu. Okay. I totally forgot about this. I was kind of confused at first when I received the big package. A nice surprise. I forgot about it too. I was at work and my mom called to tell me about some random package that had arrived. I had no idea what it was. I let her open it and she acted like somebody had sent us a bomb. I received the package the day before yesterday, so I decided to write everything down. It's a hardcover book with 252 pages. The first 72 pages are about the Secret Keeper's resources, and the next 75 pages are like a player's handbook with an attached script. There's also a stack of character cards and record sheets, a sketchbook with black and white illustrations, postcards, 30 vintage drawings, a psychiatric certificate from Haruaki's sanatorium. Name is black, so you can put in any name you want and joke around. And lastly, a dark custom binder with the research menu for the Secret Keeper. You can see everything listed on a preview picture on the crowdfunding page. The print is so pretty and the folders and sketchbook are stunning. Oh, and the digital version is available for download from the link on the page, or you can just order it on the website. Looking forward to being able to order some miniatures and other things. Copy that, the whole thing is unspeakably awesome. At first glance it looks really high quality and seems to be perfect for fans. At second glance it doesn't look high quality anymore? What do you mean? Why would you write at first... Wait, it says at first glaze actually. At first glaze, it looks really high quality. I got my hands on a crowdfunding list and found that there are more people in T2 than in Magic City. I thought the number of people on S1 was at least twice as high as in T2. So, since there's so many players, is there anyone who organizes TOC games? Will someone organize a group to visit a Cannes convention in May? I mean, it's gonna be awesome. Can you still buy the 468? I asked the store and they only have the books left. After trying it, I felt like TOC is a bit demanding when it comes to KP, especially with storytelling and adding the right amount of clues to get the pacing right. I'm absolutely fucking lost at what these people are saying, not gonna lie. What's a TOC? What's a KP? When I see KP, you know what I think of? Kim Possible. Oh, it's just the interesting thing that Nico mentioned. Finally, the last post is the thing we're actually here for. Perhaps she found some kind of connection here. I should ask Justin about what's going on as soon as I have the time. 20 years later, a major case from 1995 has finally been solved. 1995 felony case solved after 20 years. 6 p.m. October 12th. Liu Changchun Xiangxun, a member of the Mato Municipal Crime Investigation Team in the Eastern District of Mato, is left with mixed feelings. He has finally met the person he's been looking for the last 5 years. The person was also wanted for a multitude of crimes, and police have been searching for him for over a decade. The man's expression is grim, his face gaunt, and not really one that draws attention, but it is without a doubt the face of a man who committed a murder 20 years ago. Back then, on November 26, 1995, Miss Wang, a 56-year-old resident in Mato, was found severely injured in her house and died after having been rushed to the nearest hospital. After receiving the report, members of the Yongkang Public Security Bureau came to investigate the crime scene. They found bloodstains, signs of a struggle, and several grievous injuries on the woman's body. The police later confirmed that it was murder. The Bureau quickly established a task force and deployed a large number of officers to investigate the case. In 2012, Liu Xiangqun entered the Yongkang Public Security Bureau by means of a social recruitment test and was assigned to a special branch focused on the most difficult cases. It was then that Oh my god. I'm so sorry about my pronunciation, by the way. Xiangqun was informed of the murder that occurred years ago. The murderer's cruel methods and him still not having been caught inspired him to pick up the trail and catch the culprit. 5 years passed and now a member of the Special Investigation Team never once forgot about the case or stopped looking for clues. On the afternoon of October 12th, he received word that the suspect had been involved in a crime in southern Mato. Accompanied by members of the task force, it was hard for him to hide his excitement at the thought of finally closing the case after all these years. The suspect, who had remained hidden and eluded the police for 22 years, is now in custody. Gu Hulong, who is currently working as an instructor within the Criminal Investigation Team, was one of the first to actively participate in this case's investigation. He recalls, "It was a bleak time. We were working day and night trying our very best to find clues. We were able to conclude that the suspect is male, but every single time we got close, the trail just vanished. It was highly frustrating and took a lot out of us." In addition, the instructor also mentions a local legend, a folk hero of sorts, who quietly helped to advance the case over the years, Mr. Leng Yongxiang. The retired cadre, who is well known in criminal investigation circles, has never given up on helping people and took it upon himself to aid in fighting the criminal. He's someone we've always been able to count on, Gu Hulong says. Whenever we encountered difficulties, he was always able to give us advice that kept us going and led us down new paths we wouldn't have seen otherwise. After a while, it was discovered that Leng Yongxiang and Liu Xiangqun had conducted a secret investigation of their own to find out more details about potential targets. As it turns out, their work was a full-on success. The Provincial Public Security Bureau sent out a special message congratulating everyone involved on solving the case after such a long time. It has been reported that in the past 12 months, Mr. Leng Yongxian has cracked another 4 unsolved cases in Mato while still actively working on others. This marks the 13th year in which all citywide homicide cases have been solved, which is proof of how hard our law enforcement works to guarantee our safety. Being able to run from the police for 22 years is a very long time. Very long time, not gonna lie. Oh my god. Okay. We're gonna end. Hi, thank you for your time. We're gonna end the in-game day and see what they will show us on the next day until the next autosave. But I think then I'll be done for today, not gonna lie. Thank you for the pet. To be fair, we haven't really seen too much of the second chapter, but oh my god. The whole Cthulhu thing is really taking me out. And all right, let's see what Justin has to say, and then until the next autosave. I'm telling you, something seriously wrong with that place. As soon as he speaks, all the attention is on Justin. Sounds like yesterday's investigation bore some fruit. I haven't had time to tell Justin about Neko's discovery yet. It seems like he has a lot of other things to say right now anyway. It went better than I thought. Easier too. I felt like an explorer who'd been dropped on an unknown island. What do you mean? What are you getting at with that island metaphor? For starters, I was definitely not welcome at all. You know, there's a saying that the bigger city or town is, the more stuck up and overly proud its residents are. But this was on a whole new level. From what I know, the Kangen district is a fairly old residential area. This makes me recall some of Nico's findings. Compared to Scarlet, she has more means of gathering info, but bits and pieces are always thrown together in disarray, regardless of whether it's something important or not. Perhaps that's just a telltale sign of being a kid growing up in this day and age. I wouldn't know. I'm totally out of the loop when it comes to that stuff.
Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
These buildings were built in the 80s, and even if management changed hands and readjustments were made since then, the general profile of the residents probably remained the same. But this place is different. The entire Kanglin district has been filled with low-rent housing units. It's just a tad more fancy than other places like that. Are there security guards in the area? No, it's extremely crowded, and I get the feeling the residents themselves are quite observant. I don't think there's any real need for additional security. The residents were extremely cold and not talkative at all. Most of them live in severe poverty. One of the first things I noticed was an absence of street vendors, but I quickly understood why. It's not the kind of place where people approach each other and communicate. It's urban isolation at its peak. This information matches what Nico was saying. One of the victims, Miss Young, worked for the real estate company responsible for the demolition and renovation of the old housing area Rising Sun Properties. Do you think there could be a connection? There's definitely a connection, but it's still unclear. The residents are obviously quite wary of Rising Sun Properties employees, but what can I say? With the current amount of demolition work happening there, that could be the reason for it. Money makes the world go round, even though the potential profit they could make from the Kanglin district isn't anything special. They can't just abandon the place or a rival company will snatch everything up in a heartbeat. I witnessed one of these business talks by myself by coincidence. These old people simply don't want to negotiate. They don't intend to listen to any terms or offers. There's no chance in hell they'd ever budge. So you'd say the demolition plans aren't the main reason for the tense and strange situation there? It's definitely a source of conflict, but it's nothing more than a back and forth of offers and rejections between two stressed parties. Justin throws a bundle of dirty leaflets on her desk. Rising Sun Properties doesn't seem to be making much progress in the Kanglin district. The current state of the neighborhood has to be taken into account as well. I can hear in your voice that you're implying something. Do you think there's more to look into? It's not that big of a discovery, but... Though we found further proof that connects two of the victims of the Kanglin district. Nico sneakily peeks through the door and takes a look around, and then casually joins in on a conversation. Huh? Do you have a daughter? I really don't know whether to laugh or cry at that. Just shut up, you only make it worse. Alright. Fine by me, but do you really think it's okay to get a kid involved in all this? Call me a kid again and we'll post about you, the private detective Justin, in 5 different forums and make sure people think of you as the lamest wannabe in town. 5 different forums, you hear? What? You'd be better off listening to her. To mess with that kid is the equivalent of social suicide, believe me. I can't help but let out a deep sigh as I massage my head with my knuckles. You know, might as well be dead and fossilized by now. People who still use Internet Explorer as their browser!
Ouch!
Ouch! Just trying to download an actually useful browser made me want to put acid over my hands. Yeah, how can anyone work with that thing? I can't even fathom how you can use it to browse that forum. Anyway, let me introduce you to. This is Justin. He's been helping out with the investigation. This is Nico, barely any hair on her head yet, but blessed with X-ray vision and other detective-related superpowers. Hey, are you making fun of me? What an introduction. Seems to me like you get a kick out of watching us fade. Hard to resist. When you spend as much time as I do sitting around at home, it's the little things that make you smile. But back to business. While you were out investigating the Kanglin district, Nico managed to find some additional info on the victims. I have records of all complaints filed in the Kanglin district, every single household. Nico sits down and tears a piece of paper from my notebook. Finding the exact location of block 214 building 8 apartment 412 Kanglin without a detailed map is pretty difficult. When matching against some of the biggest shops going by rough estimates, it should be somewhere in the northeastern part. The maintenance worker was dispatched shortly after the complaint was issued. That's everything the record says, but you already know the rest of the story. He throws the scribbled down address to Justin and tilts a hat towards me, signaling me to continue. Internet Explorer isn't even installed by default anymore. Yeah! I mean, this game came out in... Either it came out in 17, you know, when all the forum posts are dated, or 19. I don't actually... No, it came out in English at least. It came out just last year. In English it came out last year, but the original came out on Steam in 2018. At the end of 2018, so Justin, you saw firsthand how the real estate companies and residents are at odds with each other. Right, in this case it was definitely a Rising Sun Properties employee at the scene, no doubt about it. I found their business card along with some brochures scattered around in the bushes on the side of the road like garbage. They seem to be quite unpopular around there. In situations like this, it's not unusual for the person in charge to intervene. In other words, it was indeed possible for Miss Young to have been on site at the time of the incident. This is starting to sound more and more suspicious. I agree. It could have happened anywhere, but the connection to the Kangen district is more apparent than ever. The two of them fold their arms. They look for prey that seems out of place, and then... You say that as if it's an eagle catching a rabbit. Truth be told, that comparison is quite accurate. Building 8, Block 214, Apartment 412. Should I go straight to the family for further inquiries? An address that detailed might very well be a false lead or a trap. A simple phone call is probably a bad idea. You can easily tell if you're on the right track that way. I'm not too sure the residents would be willing to talk if we did that. Well, while you try to find a way to get them to talk, it's also important to find out if they were in contact with the maintenance worker. Try not to arouse too much suspicion. Don't worry about that. I already have a few ideas. Alright then. I expect good news from you. Nico, can we trace the residential records of the Kangen district? Wouldn't Scarlett be the right person to ask for that kind of stuff? Nico tilts her head and brushes her hair behind her ears. I've already asked her for a favor twice in a row. Plus, she's still working on another case. I don't want to interrupt her all the time. She's got enough on her plate as it is. Well, how about I ask her instead? She might feel some empathy for me, what with me being stuck in this dump and all. We might get lucky. God knows we deserve it. Sounds like you guys have your hands full. I don't want to ask. I don't want yet another person to be drawn into this. Fine by me. Then I'll just proceed as planned. I need to make some more preparations if I want to visit the residence, so I have to stop by my office first. And I've got to go back upstairs to call Scarlett, so you can stay down here and watch the store. Nico gets up, dusts off her trousers, and starts walking away slowly. I'm standing here all alone, feeling like I'm the only one not doing anything productive. Just as Nico squeezed past the mini bookshelf, Nico's footsteps can be heard very clearly as she runs upstairs. What's his plan? Is he going to go in there disguised as a plumber? You can be spotted and draw the wrong kind of attention in residential areas like that in an instant, but for now I'll just put my trust in Justin's ability to pull this off. Now that I think about it, I remember Scarlett's rant about professionality on Monday, and now here I am, putting my trust in a lone wolf, loose cannon private detective. Touché, Scarlett. I guess that's karma. I'm not sure how Scarlett will react when she hears from Nico. I pick up the leaflet Justin brought and try to envision Scarlett's perplexed expression. Oh, there we go! Ha 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 ha! Woo! Alright. Alright, that was an autosave. Yes, unsafe game progress will be lost. That's perfectly fine. We have an autosave and my manual save.
Oh boy.
So, what the fuck is chapter 2 about? I have no clue. The most I remember of what we did today was reading about Lovecraft. Okay, and also 3 murders that seem to be maybe connected in a way, and we're trying to find a murderer for whatever reason. That's our next goal, apparently. But since this game deals with supernatural stuff, I'm guessing it's not gonna be that easy. Maybe the murderer is actually a supernatural being. Who knows? We shall find out. Thank you for a nice stream. No, thank you for coming. 3 hours. I feel like my tongue is paralyzed now. I feel like my tongue is actually paralyzed. That's okay. Fun stream, Noah. Saves game, what happened today? For real though. It's like we got started with chapter 2, but we didn't really get anywhere yet, is what it feels like. Which, I mean, on one hand, is nice. I'm just not used to a game taking so long to really build its story anymore. We've done so many short games these past few months. I'm like, what do you mean the game takes longer than 3 hours to give me story? But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming tonight. I have to waste some time though. I have to waste some time because I just realized that Tip is going live, or it's like started going live, but it's still on the starting soon screen. Because Tip is playing Persona 3 Portable again today. And I really want to go over there. I really want to go say hello. But I hate raiding into it just into a starting soon screen. So I'm gonna talk. Do a freestyle rap to fill this. Yeah. Because we all know that I'm very good at rapping, right? I am extremely good at rapping. Wrapping myself up in a blanket and going to sleep. Ha ha ha. No, I can talk about one thing though. Big patch for Final Fantasy 14 went live yesterday, which includes more story, which I personally cannot touch anytime soon because I'm not up to date with the story. I finished Endwalker, but nothing else. That came out right after 6.0, and this is now what, 6.2, 3? I'm not sure. But you know what they added with it? They added an island sanctuary. So what they did is essentially they give you Final Fantasy 14 giant MMO. You can do whatever you want. You can have every single class on one character, right? I've talked about this many times. I'm still shilling. I'm still busy shilling Final Fantasy 14 any chance I get. But the island sanctuary is actually like, you get an uninhabited island. You get to gather resources on island. You get to build stuff on island. You can actually catch animals there. You can also have your minions roaming around the island, which is super funny. It's like you're just walking around your base and suddenly, I don't know, one of the minions that is looks like a puppet version of one of your friendly NPCs. It's just running around. It's very fun. I resubbed to Final Fantasy 14 yesterday because I was like, oh damn, I need it. And it's so much fun. It has farming aspects to it as well. You can just run around that island and gather every single fucking thing you can see. And then build more stuff with it and gather more and build more stuff. And it's so good. It has no impact to the main storyline at all. It's just there so you can spend as much time as you want just running around gathering stuff. And me, the type of person who always gathers everything and is very upset if you have a limited inventory in a game. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's exactly what I fucking needed. So yeah, they added that yesterday. I really wanted to like it. It's really good and love the Final Fantasy series, but I really can't get into MMOs. That's valid. That's valid. Heard many people say that MMOs are just not their thing. I have to admit though, I've played many different MMOs in my lifetime, and Final Fantasy 14 is the only one that's consistently managed to actually interest me, or like make me stay and play the game, even if I take breaks sometimes. Like the last few months I didn't really play because I knew I didn't have the time for it. But when I do play, it's just you jump in and you can just continue off wherever you want. You can do the story, you can ignore the story, you can level up stuff. You can literally just sit around in a big city and RP if you wanted to. You can focus all of your stuff on just getting cute outfits. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and I, even as someone who is very bad at interacting with strangers, and you know, it's an MMO, you're kind of forced to interact with strangers, right? It's still fun for me. It's like I'm getting over my anxiety to talk to strangers in an online space with it, because most of my experience with online multiplayer games, not MMOs, but online multiplayer games in general, are just like, oh, you suck at this game, fuck off. But in Final Fantasy XIV, there's been a few bad eggs. I've also met people in dungeons who were just super mean for no reason. It's like, hi, I've never been here before. I do not know these mechanics. Please go easy on me. It's like, I do not generally go into a dungeon for the first time as a healer, for that reason. But even if that was the case, or it's like, oh, I've never been to this dungeon, I don't know how this works, there will always be, either there's someone there who knows the dungeon by heart, or will explain it to you in great detail, or everyone else is like, okay, it's fine, we'll just go slow. If it doesn't work out the first time, you just try again. It's a very nice community from what I've personally experienced, which, you know, not a lot of games can say about themselves. Obviously there's bad eggs in the community as well, but from my personal experience, it's always been fun. No matter when I get back into it, it's always nice. And I've met some really nice people just simply through Final Fantasy XIV, so it's up there on the list for my favorite games that I can recommend, or that I would love for people to try out. Really picking it up because it didn't get through Realm Reborn. Funnily enough, I actually really liked the Realm Reborn story, even before the rework where they took out a bunch of annoying running around quests. Nowadays, if you do it, it's like the main story, and then you reach Heavensward really easily. You don't have to do like these weird 50 quests that were originally in there between the end of Realm Reborn and Heavensward release. They restructured that, so that's nice. But even then, I liked it, and I've played through the beginning. Oh my god, excuse me. I've played through the beginning of Final Fantasy XIV 3 different times. 3 different times, and every time I read the full story again, and I didn't skip the cutscenes, so I liked it enough. I don't really understand when people say, oh, it doesn't get great until then, but to each their own. Also, thank you for the hydrate time. Hi, Bird. The good thing about Final Fantasy XIV nowadays is critically acclaimed Final Fantasy MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV is free to play, including its first expansion Heavensward, until level 60. And the only thing, you don't have to pay a single cent. You can play the game now, you can download it, you can play the entirety of Heavensward. The only thing it stops you from doing, like the level 60 is just a level cap, which means the main story doesn't continue after that point. Like if you finish the Heavensward main story, that's it. But you can play every single class that is available until Heavensward, etc, etc. You cannot use the market board, some of these smaller things. You cannot add friends, you cannot join free company, but you cannot whisper, which is a weird thing to do, but okay, you cannot whisper, but other people can whisper to you, other people can invite you to parties, blah blah blah. You already paid back in the day. Yeah, you would have to make a new account. if you wanted to make use of the now free-to-play trial, you would have to make a new account. Don't worry, I had to do that as well back in the day. When I originally started Final Fantasy XIV, there was still only you have 14 days of trial time. You have 14 days of trial time and then you're fucked. So I've went through my fair share of accounts as well until the account I now have. With restrictions probably because of bot spam. That makes sense, yeah. That makes sense. Of course, now that it's free to play, it would be even easier to have bots running around. Imagine they could whisper. That makes sense. I didn't think of that before. Yeah, stream is going well, Bert. I was just wasting around time, so we could go rate tip. No, but I don't know. It's just Final Fantasy XIV is always fun. Sometimes I need a little break of it. From it, I need to play a few games in between, a few different games, but then I can just jump back in, have my character and run around, and I have not yet run out of things I could be doing. Not at all. There's so much stuff to do in the game, especially because you can do everything on one singular character, which is a great plus that a lot of other MMOs do not have. It's like, okay, here's your character. You made the character with this one class. You have to play through the entire game with that one class. And then it turns out you don't really like the class as much, and you have to make a completely new character and start from the very beginning to see if maybe you like another class better. That's not a problem in Final Fantasy. You can start off with a lot of classes, and even if the first one you have is not really up your alley, you literally only have to walk through like, I don't know, maybe half an hour of quests, which are really just, hi, here's how you walk, here's how you go to different places, speak to like 3 NPCs, kill a few things with your basic attacks, and then you already hit level 10 and you can change your class already to something else, see if that works better. Easy peasy. You had your experience with bots in Lost Ark. Oh god. I wanted to play Lost Ark for a little longer than I ended up doing. Because first, the game like booted me out. Like it died, and every time I tried to log back in, and it would not let me in again. Not even a queue mistake or something, or error. Error is the word I'm searching for. But just, it would not let me log back in. And then the thing happened where Steam decided to delete my entire folder of installed games, which to this day I don't fucking understand. And I'm not downloading that again. Like, how big was it? Like 60 gigs? I'm not gonna download that again just to still have the problem of me not being able to log in. So I had my fun with Lost Ark for a few days at least, though. That was nice. The critically acclaimed copy paste as a commando. Oh, that's good. That's great. It is fun. It is always fun to do. It's always an appropriate time to post a critically acclaimed blah blah blah. I wish I knew it by heart. I don't actually do though. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta admit, Endwalker is not my favorite expansion. It didn't wow me as much as Shadowbringers did. Shadowbringers was more fun for me. Also due to pacing, I think. Endwalker has a good pacing, but I felt exhausted in trying to get through it because it would always be like, big story. Here's a fight. Here's a run through this area, a specific character, and if you die during it, you haven't completed, you have to start from the beginning again. There were several instances, and I'm not a fan. I feel like lots of other people have to be fans, otherwise they wouldn't keep putting it in. But I hate I hate the thing that the Final Fantasy XIV development team keeps doing, where it's like, hi, you now get to play this one boss fight or story fight as one of the NPC characters. I hate them. I always fail them. Every time, and then I already waste like 20 minutes on a stupid fight that should not be taking this long. Then I fail it, then I have to restart it, and then I get the option to play it on an easier mode. And it frustrates me to no end. And they had a lot of those in Endwalker, so it took me many separate attempts to get to Endwalker actually. So sadly, it was not my thing. The story itself was fine. Just how you had to get through it is not my thing. Also, you want that in an Uvo voice? Okay. Sure.
Okay. Have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV with an expanded free trial which you can play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward expansion up to level 60 for free with no restrictions on playtime?
All right. Okay. With our best friends, the Final Fantasy XIV free trial, I shall now be going. I shall now send you over to Tip, who is doing Persona 3 Portable. And as far as I can see, it seems to be toward the end of the game. So spoilers ahead, I'm guessing. I say this, I know the ending to Persona 3, but I've never played myself, so be careful there. If anyone doesn't want to get spoiled, be careful there, but give some love to Tip. We love Tip in this house. I'll see you all on Friday for more Blaze Blue, and then Saturday for both Yakuza, and probably, hopefully, maybe the Splatfest after Yakuza, or the Splatfest Sunday morning. We'll see how I feel, not gonna lie. But for now, thank you so much for coming. I wish you all a very good night. See you all soon. And bye bye.